And Zoom always does this. We are probably live, but it's still telling me set up. Got Isaiah jumping in there.
I have a live confirmation.
Oh, Jodell jumping back in. I'm sure it's live. There we go. Done. Redirecting. All right. So it's showing live for me. So I'm sure we are live now. We've got a number of brothers and sisters in here. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining. I know a lot of people are anticipating and are excited and are nerve-wracked and are edge of their seats and every other single possibility you can imagine in this time. Um, you know, it's momentarily disappointing, but we know I'm with the best of our knowing of all the revelation that we've been led to over these 7 years, which by the way is tomorrow for the ministry when I knowingly knew something was beginning. And I think it's kind of fitting that we're here, the beginning of the ministry, pretty much well to the last day of it, of it being 7 years. Do I think the connection is to tomorrow? No, I don't. That would be pretty cool, but I don't think that's it. But we are going to discuss this today, and the reason, some people might say, well, why bother still looking for the date? What's the point? Just let's keep our focus on the Lord. Let's keep digging into His Word. Well, guess what? We are. We will continue to do that as we continue to seek and search out His time, because you see, it's all part of the package. The greatest part of the revelation has been His Word, has been the entirety of the revelation itself. The when is the cherry on top. And one of the biggest reasons, if not the biggest reason, is that had we not gotten to the point of understanding that this is the 70th year, that there is no other, what about this possibility? Maybe it's one more year or 2 more years or 5 more years. If there was a possibility of things like that, I probably still wouldn't have persisted as I have to this point at this time, because I would have just said, forget it, it's past. We're going to next year, like we did last year. But there is no more 70. This is the end of the road. So there's something that we haven't fully understood, but it does connect to the beginning. It does connect to Taurus. It's going to be all brought back to the way it was in the beginning. And with that, we know the Gregorian calendar isn't correct. We know that the Hebrew calendar is clearly off. And so Ivan has some things he's going to share on that. I have some things I'm going to share on that. And everything that we can look to, everything that we're pointing to is a September time frame of it beginning. There is no way we could be going to October. We've shared on these things. We are not going to the end of the year's end of the feast, which, by the way, is part of the conversation today. And wouldn't you know it, the last teaching that I did about the year's end, some of you have been here for a long time. You'll remember. How many year's ends are there according to the definition of the year's end? Two. Of course, there are two of them. And the one I pointed to was the one on the harvest, because the harvest had this perfect count with what we were looking at to Taurus in relation to that final 50. However, we've known for a long time the count was never going to the year's end of what was the harvest count. It had a year's end connection to the what? The circuit of the sun. And we knew this from the word takufa. Takufa has two definitions, and one is the circuit of the sun, and one is the year's end, which is what we spoke about in the last teaching, which is the year's end of the harvest. So we're going to go into all these things. There is absolute reason why we're still diligently staying on it, and we'll stay on it through September. After that, this is why it's been kind of stressful too. And I'm sure it has been for you guys, because what ends up happening is if we go September, October, we're going to November, nothing's changed. I I don't know what to tell you guys. I know it'll be Feast of Weeks. Whatever the true Feast of Weeks it will be in that year. That's not even a question. It's just when in the year, and then at that point it would be what year. And that's really where it would be really tough because we wouldn't be able to explain 70 anymore. And we clearly know 70 is the end, and then it's the 14 years. So we're going to get into that today. We're going to cover those things. We're going to make some points to remind everybody of that. And we're going to go into all these other things. But I also wanted you guys to know that I always appreciate you guys. We don't always see eye to eye on looking at this or looking at that. Ivan and I were just having a conversation about that because Ivan will go and seek, like all of you guys do, and seek and search, and then he'll become adamant about one thing, and I'm adamant about this direction. And then in most cases, we end up being wrong in relation to timing because obviously it hasn't happened yet. But I understand, and Ivan and I have this relationship, and I've known it from the beginning and I've always appreciated it. But sometimes in posts on the forum, sometimes it might seem like we're butting heads and stuff, right? But really, we've understood this of each other. And it's the same with everybody else. Just look over the years how many times I've talked about Jodel, or I've mentioned Isaiah, or I've mentioned John, or I've mentioned Tammy and Roy, and all these people, and many, many more. That again, I'm not going to mention everybody, but and many, many more who have all played a part in this. Sure, the revelation starts through Ministry Revealed and it goes up, but then what happens? You guys also seek and search it out. And as you guys seek it, as you guys search it, you share it in the forum. That's why we have the forum. So we can share, so we can have prayer, so we can get together, people can connect. And that's what we've done. Believe me, it's not all about Alan. I've never believed it was all about Alan. I understand it's coming through Alan and then everybody else who is led here to see it and to receive it and to understand it and seek and search it out. They do the exact same thing. And Mike from 165 and all of you guys have found parts and pieces that you've shared that then I've turned around when I could catch it, when I see the post, when I understand it and I build it into it. And all of you guys have added to the picture, whether it's sharing things that you found, whether it's like Tammy with these incredible charts that she's done with us, and Ivan some charts, and people's posts and their digging and their shares, or prayers, or support for the ministry. It doesn't just come to the ministry here for our bills. It goes to Uganda and all over Uganda. It goes to help people pay their rents, pay their bills, fix a car. It helps with many, many things all throughout the ministry. So all of these things have had an effect and have helped tremendously. And I'm grateful, and we'll keep doing this. I was talking to my daughter the other day, and I was saying, look, it doesn't matter where I am. It doesn't matter where we might end up in the world, however long our lives might be. This is what I'm doing for the rest of my life. So I'm not going anywhere. There might be a change in how I do things, but this is what I'm doing for the rest of my life. I know what I've been given. I know the revelation is true. It's absolute 100% true. And if we have to tarry, then the format might change a little bit, but I will still be out there, and we'll just be spreading it more and more far and wide. So with that, I thank you all. I love you guys. I appreciate you, and feel free to turn your mic backs on if you want. And
so you're saying we missed it?
Oh, there
You're
he
saying we
is.
missed it, Alan? We missed it. No, it's just good. How's it going, man?
Oh, sure. It had to be Mike jumping in to say that now, right?
Oh, yeah,
That's hilarious.
absolutely. Hey, everybody. Hey, Ivan.
Again, can you hear
Hey,
me?
Mark. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just talking to Mike about this stuff yesterday too. So
Can anybody hear me out there?
yeah, we got you,
We
Jodel.
hear you.
Good, thank you.
Excellent.
Lovely
Hey,
blue
Mike.
shirt.
Mike,
So if
put on the
anybody-
camera, man. We haven't seen you for ages.
Yeah, where are you, Mike?
I am in the gym.
He's in the gym. Yeah, you know what? He was in
Okay.
the gym yesterday when I was talking to him, so he must look a lot more like me now.
Yeah.
You want?
Not so much, Mike.
Not so much. Let's see.
There he is.
Hey, guys,
Well, I
how
got
you
a
doing?
haircut
Hey.
today because I'm getting ready for a wedding.
Oh, look at that
Yeah.
young fella.
Well, the Lord did say they'll be marrying and being given in marriage. So yeah.
That's right.
I'll be 38 on Monday, man.
That's
I don't
right.
feel so
Mike's
young.
birthday on Monday.
Yeah.
Exciting,
9-9.
exciting. Perfect.
Well, happy birthday for Monday.
Yeah, good number,
Thank you.
38. I remember it.
Yeah.
We remembered a couple years ago.
Almost
Yeah.
twice Oh, goodness.
I was just talking to somebody. They were like, "Oh, they're freshmen in high school or sophomore in high school." I was like, "Oh, goodness, 22 years ago, or 20."
Well,
And
at
then I'm
least
talking to you
I
guys.
remember
Actually, I
you.
feel good now. I feel good now because y'all for 38, 22 years ago for some of y'all. Okay, I'm good.
I remember
That's
you
right.
from
That's
two
right.
kids ago.
Yeah. Hey, what's up, man?
Perfect.
How you doing, brother?
There he is. We're just getting some more in here. All right. So yeah, if does anybody have anything just they wanted to share at the upfront? I think with Ivan's I know Ivan's going to be getting into stuff. Sorry, my eyes are watering a little bit. I got the fan because we're actually really hot here today. So I got the fan and it's kind of making my eyes water. So if you're seeing me wipe my eyes and stuff, it's just don't worry about it. I'm good. It's okay.
You were happy to see me. It's okay.
That's right. Yeah, I was crying for Mike. Mike, I finally saw you, bro. I only heard your voice. Um, so with that, then what I'll do is if nobody has anything to say at the moment or something they want to share, we'll save Ivan for after I just do this little bit of a chat here in relation to Jesus's birth and his death and resurrection timing, just to refresh and to show the evidence, not only from things we've shown, but and we've discovered, but from what other people can share and discuss that I'm going to show about as well. And then we'll start kind of going into it, and I'll let Ivan share on the points that he's talking about through the Enoch calendar and how it relates. And then at the end, I'll tie in my portion, and you guys could see where this is in September. And here's the thing: if it's before Ivan's, fantastic. If it's Ivan's, fantastic. If Ivan's time comes to pass and there's one more we can look at, well, we've got one more to look at. But everything is in September, and the evidence, I believe there's enough evidence to it. But you have never heard me say, "Thus saith the Lord," of course, and you're never going to hear me again, as I posted, say, "This I am absolutely convinced is it." I am no longer absolutely convinced, except for the revelation itself. I'm not convinced of any specific date. So I'll say absolute when the Lord tells me himself or he shows up. Other than that, I believe
This
this
is
is.
why it's it.
Yeah.
This is the first time ever Alan hasn't said it. No, I'm kidding.
That's right. Yeah. So that's why this is it. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Perfect.
just a quick one on do prayers work? So you've got all these people that are praying, please don't let Israel have war or conflict anymore.
Mhm.
And also you've got those praying that God's will be done. So that's what I'm thinking. Do prayers work if there's enough people praying for Israel not to be at war or conflict? Does that have anything to do with the book of Revelation?
And that's always a really good question too, because of course prayers work, but we also have to know that Jews are going to pay the price for their own disobedience. You see, that's the other side of the coin. We
Yeah,
can pray
but
for
the
them.
timing, where the Book of Revelations, we've worked everything right out down to, everything, and then but you've still got prayers that can change all that. Or if they can't change that, then does that bring in Calvinism?
Well,
No, I don't think it brings in Calvinism at all. Sorry, Alan. It's you
yeah,
got Revelation just jumping in where the riders right are released under the river Euphrates for a day, an hour, a certain time. It's set in stone. So
yeah,
if that's set in stone, I mean tribulation set in stone. So we can pray, for Israel to be woken, to those to go out and preach Jesus, for people to repent. But judgment still's coming. That's still set.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. I agree
yeah,
with you,
And
Mike.
and
Whose will is going to be done? Right.
it's
yeah,
God's will. God set it in
Exactly.
stone, but we're
Yeah.
still free creatures able to go out and pray for somebody else to wake up freely, right?
yeah.
So
And we know this has all been set too because it's their disobedience that allowed us to be grafted in, right? All in God's will again. But their disobedience by fattening their hearts and blinding their eyes, we were able to be grafted in until the times of the Gentiles are over. You see, the times of the Gentiles aren't over till the end of seals, till that seventh year of seals. And that's why as we've shared before, that's why we then see the Jews coming in, because they will recognize their Messiah, who is the conquering king who has come as high priest and king, who will defeat the Ezekiel 39 war. And then they're going to start rebuilding the city streets and temple. That's the Messiah that they're looking for. And that's why they've been blinded and fattened because of us, because we've been so mercifully grafted in. So, in this prayers for them, absolutely. But in their disobedience, they still have to pay the price because they're still disobedient, regardless of our prayers for them. But we still pray for them because there could be individuals that are being saved as well. But will it change the timing of prophecy? Absolutely not. And I think what's going on in all of this, seeing all of these times come and go, and we know that this is the 70th year from everything we've gone through, and the scriptures everything is found in the scriptures. So if we've broken it down and we've gone through it and we found that it's the 1949 and then the 5 and so forth, then we know that this is it. The only issue is it's it according to the Lord God, and from what we've understood and what we've been revealed, according to the Lord God as it was in the beginning. And I think that's the key. And we just haven't fully grasped yet what the beginning is. But I think today we'll see another couple of examples of how it can connect and what it points to in September. All right.
So, Alan, there's just one thing that worries me a little bit, just in the back of my mind.
Mhm.
Because if we are truly in the 70th,
Mhm.
then there's always the dung year that we need to deal with. So has the dung year happened, or
Wow,
does this dung year still have to happen?
that's a good point.
Yeah, and might the dung year be relating to something else? Because remember all the way back when that started with the whole dung year and the 3 years and then the fourth, right? Well, we're beyond the 3 and the fourth, right?
Yeah.
We're at the 5th.
Yeah.
And so when
Yeah,
I look
that's
at it, when I'm wondering with the dung year, just as you mentioned it, what came to mind was the first year. 1948 into 1949, it wasn't fully established till they were in the land, planted the trees, and then they're Judah, so it's the fall feasts. But maybe there's an account for that being the dung year because that's just, like dung. What does dung do, right? It fertilizes. So maybe that's a relation to it there because it's after that, then we've got the count beginning. But when we go just from what is it, Luke 18, I think it is, or 13, in relation to the 3 and then the fourth years for dung. Outside of that, I'm not really sure how that applies now because now we know Leviticus had the answer
Yeah.
of being 5 years. So I'm not sure
Yeah.
what that difference was.
Does the dung year point to the fig tree? And the fig tree really point to not talk to Jerusalem and talks to the Jews rather than the Christians?
What
Question.
exactly is
be.
the dung year?
Excuse me. Let me see here.
Thought it
Yeah, but we
points to the
know
fig
that
tree.
Jerusalem is the timepiece.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's, I stick with Leviticus with the 4 year pace of Leviticus, but with regard to the dung, I think that points more maybe to a different people. I'm
Yeah,
not
because we do
sure.
have the parable of the barren fig tree, right? So this is where it comes in, Olu, in Luke chapter 13, the parable of the barren fig tree. And what what is interesting about it, kind of like what Roy's talking about here, is, do we have to worry? Is this dung year connected to now, or is it something later? And here's why I bring that up. In Luke chapter 19, we see the storyline of the triumphal entry. We know, again, this is a prophetic typology of the 40 days of the Son of Man. We see him then weeping over Jerusalem. This is when he's here as the Son of Man for 40 days. When we go to Mark's gospel, where is no, it's not in there. Where is there it is. In Mark 11, look at the triumphal entry. The triumphal entry in Mark 11, this is just something that came as you guys were talking about it, is in Mark's triumphal entry, it's the end of the 6 years of seals, the Lord coming at the 7th year. We see the branches cut down. But remember the storyline. When we went into the triumphal entry of Luke, we see it's his 40 days, and there he is warning as Jonah. We came to Mark, it's the end of seals, and then what do we see? And then we go to Matthew's triumphal entry, And which is the end of the 6th year of trumpets. He's there for the 7th. And then what do we see? We see the overturning of the tables and everything else. Well, the reason I bring up Mark's is because look at what we get. In Mark's, which is a picture of the Lord coming at the end of the 6th year of seals, we have this conversation. The very first event spoken about in order in Mark's is the curse of the fig tree. In Luke's, it was him coming to warn, as he said he would in Jonah. And in Matthew's, when you read it, it's about him overturning the money changers and stuff, right? So everything is exactly in order. But what does it have to do with the fig tree here? So if we have this curse of the fig tree, and we went over to Luke and we were seeing this curse of the fig tree, the barren fig tree, and then he curses and it's 3 years and 4. Is this, and I'm just throwing this out there, is the purpose of this here, following it in order, talking about the next 3.5 years of the first 3.5 years of trumpets? Because when that's over, what is it? The 10.5 years is over. And at the end of those 10.5 years, they're going to fly away on the wings of an eagle into the wilderness. So is potentially what Luke's talking about with that 3 to the 4th year a connection to the Lord coming at the end of seals, and then there being that 3rd to the 4th year? I'm not saying that's the answer. I'm just saying that's something that came to my thoughts as we were just asking about it. Because I don't see its connection. I don't grasp how this is connected to the pre. Because we're beyond anything of 3 to 4. So was there something prior? Was there something maybe a few years ago that was the 3 to the 4? Was it COVID?
Yeah, that's what
how would we
I
account
was kind
that?
of
You know what I
looking
mean?
at that, just after the COVID. I mean, we had the 3 years, and if the dung year is now that whole October 7 event that happened last year kind of marks the beginning of a dung year, in my view. I mean, they've had nothing but dung this entire year.
Yeah.
And yet they still don't repent, yet there's still no fruit. That's the way where I'm kind of leaning to. And where it is an additional year, but in the Lord's eyes, he's still seeing it as the 70th.
Yeah.
So, but the way I count, the 70th actually truly ended in last year, October. But the dung year is kind of an extension of that 70th to say, look, I'm going to give you one last chance. I'm still seeing it as you're in your 70th. Because of my mercy and my grace, I'm going to give you one last chance. And if you produce fruit during this year, I'll repent. But if you don't, you're going to get cut off.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm leaning towards in terms of the dung year.
Yeah. And just so you guys are aware, what Ivan is talking about is he sees things on the other side. And what I mean by the other side, let me clarify that, is when we say 70. So, for example, you know what? Let me bring up a chart.
While you bring it up, let me ask Alan, Ivan, a quick question. So, Ivan, you were saying this would be, if you were saying this would be that dung year to you, or what?
Yes.
Yeah. So from October 7th would be the beginning of the dung year.
Well, wasn't that when they were attacked?
Yeah.
Last year, the 9/11?
It was, yeah. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
That would be the dung year for them then. So
yeah. So
that was the worst in history so far.
I mean, they've been counting this down. I mean, they're still counting it from that day. They've been like counting down a year, haven't they? They're sitting on what, almost 340. I think we're 3 days away from 340 days. And it's a quite unusual thing to do. It's as if they've been counting down their own demise and not just turning and repenting. Yeah, sorry, Alan, you were saying?
Yeah. No, that's good. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is so that because people, they will have questions, Ivan, because I'm at 70 and what you are is at the end of 70 or at 71. So this is what we mean. So in Psalms 90 and 10, it says 70 to 80 years. When I say 70 to 80, I don't say that it's almost 71 and then it goes to 81. When I say 70 to 80 means as soon as 365 days ends, boom, it's 70 is over. And so this would be like right here, the end of 70. And this would be 70. So the actual 70 number has been hit. And this is day 1, 2. And when it's 65 days past the 70, then you've completed now 71. So this is 1 year from the end of the number being turned to 70 to that other side. You've started 71, and when it's over is when you turn 71. And I believe that that it really is the way it is, because it says from 70 to 80. But the way Ivan looks at it is Ivan believes we are at the 71, meaning it doesn't start on this side for 70, but it starts on this side. And so he looks at things already on the other side. So when I would say, Jesus began to be about 30, I would put him 29 and a few days. Ivan would put him 30, the number 30 already, and a few days. And I do the same thing with the years. So it's like going from year 0. So when somebody's born, they're 1 year old, or 1 day old. From 1 day to the turning the number 1 and celebrating 1 year old, what was that first year? Do you say they're in their year 0? No, you would say they're in their first year. So when they turn 1, after they've turned 1 and they're going to 2, Ivan's of the side, like many people say. So the baby has turned 1, and between 1 and 2, everybody calls that baby 1. But really, that baby is in his second year. So I'm on this side that this is 1, and Ivan is on this side saying this can be 1. And that's why he would say 71 now when we're saying 70 is coming to an end. He's saying it as all of this is still 70. And from the turning of 70, there's 12 more months. And then at 71, that's when the 14 would begin. I'm of the other, and I think 70 to 80 kind of should make that clear, in my opinion. But Ivan's just on the other side of that. So I don't want people to get confused by that. I wanted you guys to know that, because I know some people would have questions there. Oh,
I have a question.
oh shoot.
But
I thought I pushed the wrong button.
so other than the counting differences, as a point of time right now as we speak, we're in the same accord.
That's right. That's right.
Would
Yeah,
that be
no,
fair to say?
It still equals the same, because he thinks the number 70 was accomplished last year, and now we're in the 70 plus months. But
yeah, we're just not 70. Yeah, we just haven't got to the final 70.
we
We're still
haven't hit the
70.
70 and 1, whereas I would say we haven't
Yeah.
hit the final 7-0. So
Yeah.
it's not a big deal, because we're here at the same place looking at the same time frame. But
Yeah.
I know I was going to get questions on it, so I wanted to
Yeah,
make
yeah.
that clear.
I like I mentioned to you, Alan, it's we're at the party a little bit earlier,
Yeah.
than as we in ministry revealed and interrupts. That's
Yeah.
We're no earlier than any other watchman, though.
Yeah, exactly.
uh,
We're kind of all early.
makes me think about the 10 days. I think, I was like reflecting on it. I don't know the details, but I remember when the Gregorian calendar was being created, there
Yeah.
was 10 days that they had to
They removed, yeah.
they removed, or they had to like scratch their head about. So
Yeah.
I wonder about that. You
And-
did teaching about that, I guess 5 years ago.
So
Yeah.
if I can just pipe in there, the way I always see it is we apply these labels to a day. So today we apply the label, it's the 7th of September. It's really just a label to the day. On the Jews, they would apply a different label, and some other calendar would apply a different label. So what happened in, what was it, 1582, I think it was October the 5th, the day went from October 4th to the next day. It was supposed to be October the 5th. It was a label, and they relabeled it to October 15. But they didn't lose any days. It's not like they were able to actually remove any days. They just applied a new label to it, which was by a factor of 10 higher than the previous day.
I love that. I love that, Ivan, because how many days are there for man? There are only 7 days.
Yeah.
And then you repeat. But then you have seasons and other markers that are for
the
days,
Modim,
Modim,
signs and
convocations,
wonders,
right.
Yeah.
But for man, there are only 7 days, and you repeat it. That's the way I kind of see it. So yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that. You know, how you stack them and count them has changed, right? That's part of the knot that you guys have been so great to untie.
Yeah. So
Slowly
I don't want to
untying.
create without creating confusion. There's an eighth day as well. It's a different type of day. It's called the new moon day, and it's not part of those seven that you're referring to there.
Mhm.
That 7 days that you're referring to is comprised of 6 and 1, 6 working and 1 rest. But over and above those two, there's also this other day that's called the new moon day, which the Jews have dropped off in their calendar. They don't have a new moon day anymore. Yet in the Bible defines
Yeah.
3 types of days.
Yeah.
Just bear that in mind.
Yeah.
All right. No.
Is that called the eighth day, or it's the new moon day, right?
Well, I'm just saying it's another type
It's a
of
third
day.
type of, yeah,
not necessarily the eighth day that we
Yeah.
sorry,
That's right.
there.
Yeah.
But there are 3 types of days: new moon
Yeah.
day, a work day, and a rest day, a Sabbath
That's
day.
right. That's right. There you go.
But that
Yeah,
spins
from
off
Numbers
into
28.
different, right? The difference between the solar and the lunar days, right? But regardless of that, there are 7 days and there are special eighth days. So it you know, it's not supposed to be easy. If it was easy, you know.
Yeah. And it's kind of like what I've been saying, and everything was just a day, but it's only because of our calendars. When they didn't have calendars, they all just looked up. So if they knew based on where the sun should be that was the beginning of the year, and we've talked about that with Taurus, they looked up, and when the sun was there in Taurus at that place, they knew what? Spring was beginning. So all of the ancient ones knew that. Even 4,000 plus years ago, they knew that. So, we've been so convenienced with having been given these date calendars where they apply things to us because it makes our life a little bit more convenient. But we were totally blinded to be able to look up and understand what these things mean and when their times are. So, hopefully today we'll be able to knock a couple more pieces of the detail out that we can hopefully grasp it and understand it and see it. And, one of these will be correct, let's hope. That's the prayer that we're in this season, and we're relentless on looking into it because there is no other option left. And so with that, as I said, the reason I want to share the stuff related to Jesus's birth as we get going here first is because there have been some people asking me about it. So let me just start by going right into that. There's some things I could skip. Okay, let me just start with this right here. So this is a great little site that I found about it where they have this conversation. 7 clues tell us, quote unquote, precisely when Jesus died, the year, month, day, and hour revealed. And it goes through these points. So the high priest of Caiaphas, the high priesthood of Caiaphas, and we know from the history records that it was between 18 AD and 36 AD. Okay, that gives us this range, kind of like what I've shared in previous videos. There's this range with when Jesus's birth was and when his death and resurrection was. So we know that there's this range. Most of that range has now passed. So what's another point? The governorship of Pontius Pilate, which was 26 AD to 36 AD. So now we went from 18 to 36 to 26 to 36. So now we've got it narrowed down a little bit more. And why do we look at these? Well, because the scriptures talk about these people and the timing of their reign. Here's one of my favorites. You guys know this is, I would say, not one of my favorites, probably my favorite of all, is the 15th year of Tiberius Caesar. Even this guy explains. This picks out a specific year of 29 AD. I haven't found anything outside of a 28, 29. I would say 90+% say 29 AD. And those who know that a year would either go fall to fall or spring to spring would say a 28, 29 AD. All of them are connected to 29 AD because the history records, the scholars, all of them, they've gone back. You can look these things up. The 15th year of Tiberius Caesar was 29 AD. And for us, that's a big deal because we know the 15th year of Tiberius Caesar was the year Jesus began to be about 30 years of age. So if Jesus began to be about 30 years of age in the year that Tiberius Caesar was in his 15th year, then we know the connection is 29 AD. There's other things too. They'll say the crucified on a Friday, the Friday Passover. And then when they go into this, they've shown that a lot of people either are at 30 AD and the majority are at 33 AD. As he goes into this and he explains it more, you could see how 30 AD literally falls off the chart. It's not possible because of the timing. When you put in Tiberius Caesar, you know that Jesus had more than 1 or 1.5 Passovers that he was dealing with, or 1.5 years. And so when you understand the Passovers and go to the recorded Passovers, then you could see, of course, 30 AD is definitely out of the picture. So this again brings us right back to this 3rd of April in 33 AD. And of course, my favorite piece of it is that 29 AD in the 15th year of Tiberius. I'm going to close this out because I'm slowing down. Now, when we go to the chart and we go all the way back, well, actually, if we just start right here and we go from 28, 29. So if we're going Jesus's birthday, so the 3rd month, 15th day of Jesus's birthday. So this was right here when he turns 30. So you got this 29 here start, right? So Jesus begins to be 30. You see, where I put it is Jesus beginning. So he completed 29 and he's about to be 30. Ivan would say he is already the number 30. You see, this is what I was talking about earlier, which is why I'm glad we brought it up in another format with Ivan showing 71 compared to me saying 70. So I would say Jesus was 29 and a little bit, whereas Ivan would say, no, he believes he had turned the number 30 and then he was a few days into it. But it equals the same when it comes to our charts. And why was this a big deal? Because in 29 AD, that 28 to 29 timeframe AD, the Bible tells us it was the 15th year of Tiberius Caesar and Jesus began to be 30 years old. Well, look what happens. If you just simply count 30 years back, you get to the birth of Christ in a Gregorian calendar that has no year 0. So if you're using Stellarium, there will be a year 0, which means it would push it to 3 BC. And so what ends up happening is you have a birth in 2 BC into 1 BC. So you got his birth to completing his first year. Okay, so there's year 1, 2, 3. Did we do something like so incredible? No, we went to scripture and the history books. Jesus began to be 30. It was the 15th year of Tiberius Caesar. 15th year of Tiberius Caesar is 29 AD. We backtrack from that 30 years because Jesus began to be 30, and you get the birth of 2 BC. And it turns out when you go to the sun, moon, and stars, that is precisely where it says it happened. So we didn't invent anything crazy. We didn't invent anything. We just followed what the scriptures told us. But what else is really important in this? The other important piece, of course, is that just a short period later, in Luke chapter 4, we're talking about the is, not the is to come of this yet, but the is of it. We see that Jesus spoke Isaiah, right? Jesus spoke Isaiah 61 in preaching the acceptable year of the Lord, and he closed the book. Everybody is in agreement, and Ivan was the one that brought this one to our attention. But everybody that has studied it, all the scholars, everybody that talks about it, everybody knows that Jesus was speaking Isaiah 61. Isaiah 61 is a prophetic speak to the day of the Lord and it being a Jubilee year. So if Jesus at this time frame from 29 AD, he began to be 30, it was the 15th year of Tiberius Caesar, and a short period later in the time frame of Luke 4, when he declares those words, and it's Isaiah 61, the Jubilee, as Leviticus 25, then guess what? Then he was declaring the Jubilee was at hand, which means he was probably at about the time of the fall feast when this is taking place. So here he is declaring the Jubilee in the time frame of 29 AD, which would go in a fall to fall 29 to 30. And look at what we have. we have literally the exact thing spoken about in Scripture, confirmed in the sun, moon, and stars, according to the history books that are written, all of it, everything exactly as Scripture. There's nothing out of place here. It's exactly what it says. So what did we do? Well, if you know how to count a jubilee, and it's every 49, so it's 49 years, and the next year, the 50th, is what? It's not a standalone 50, and then 7 more years start after that for 49. The 50th year is year 1 of the next set of 7 in the next set of 49 years. So what do? You count, there's your jubilee, and then what do? You count the 49, right? And then you know the next one's the jubilee, and you keep counting. If you do that, use your calculator, do that, you get all the way through all of these jubilees, and look at where the jubilee lands. The jubilee lands in 2038. And in the 14 years, which is the revelation of 14, it represents the final 2 sevens of the 7 times 7 years of a jubilee count. They're the final 2 of the 7. That's the 7 years of seals, 7 years of trumpets, and then bang, the 15th year is like that new set starting of 49 again, is the jubilee. We call that the 15th year. And in the bigger picture of 21, the first 7 easy, like we would say for Leah. Then you got 7 years of seals, 7 years of trumpets. It's also a picture of the 22nd year. But I didn't make that equal the Jubilee year. It's what simple math equaled from what Scripture revealed, what history revealed, what the sun, moon, and stars revealed about the time of the birth of Christ and the time of his death and resurrection. This is why I cannot be any more adamant in diligently staying on this 70th year, because this 70th year is unequivocally everywhere. You guys know this. It is absolutely everywhere. We know it from, I think I've got it all the way back here. We've got it from Zechariah chapter 1, 14 chapters, 14 years. And we've got these 70 years. We go to Zechariah 7, like a picture of the 77th year, the 7th year of seals. And what do we get? Those 70 years. We go to Psalms. I'll go this way. It's slowing down the other way. We go to my favorite, Psalms 90 and 10. Everybody here knows it. It says 70 to 80 years. Then soon, then we fly away. That's, you all know, it's Revelation 12:14. It's mid-trumpets. That's 10 and a half years approximately, and 3.5 years. That's 14 years. From when? When 70 years come to an end. There's no way around it. And so when we see that the Jubilee equaled this, oh man, it was game over. Because everything was according to Scripture. And we knew that there was 14 years left, which means there's something in this year in relation to how it was in the beginning, according to the Lord God, to how he had laid this out, that we just haven't yet understood. You see, just because it was the time of the fall, I used September 20th, 1949 as the beginning, but it's just at around the time of the fall, right? When the fall feasts begin. And we do 75 years, 5 and 70. So what are we? We are in the 75th right now. See? There's no way around it. Why 5? Because Psalms 90 and 10. So you've got the 4, the 5th year is theirs, plus the 70. You have to be in the 75th. And this is why it's impossible to let this stuff go and to just say, well, it's kind of looking like that. I was going to share this one too. Here, might as well, since I've got it up.
I have a quick question while you're looking for this. Do we know in Jeremiah where that judgment took place after the 70
sorry,
years?
Bro. Oh, give me a second. I had no idea. I was wondering what was going on. Give me a second. You guys actually couldn't hear that. I wanted you, before you jump in there, Isaiah, I wanted you guys to see this. I didn't realize nobody could hear it. So here, let me play this again.
Do we know the actual day that Jesus was crucified? We can narrow it down to where we're pretty sure of it. So, for instance, we know that it's during the reign of Pilate, which is between 26 and 36 AD. We know that he's crucified on a Friday because he has to be rushed down from the cross because Sabbath is about to begin. We know it's during Passover. And when you put all of those things together, there's two options. You've got April 7th of 30 AD or April 3rd of 33 AD. There's good evidence that it's the later date because Pilate's really concerned about Tiberius Caesar's mood, which favors the later date. And when you plug, by the scripture gives us clues that says the moon will be turned to blood on that day. Well, that's actually a technical term for a type of eclipse where the light of the sun gets red shifted around the earth and turns the moon red. And when you look.
So, and what's he talking about here? Here it is. April 3rd, 33 AD. Peak totality happened about Jerusalem time, 247. It was a lunar eclipse. So all of these things over and over. Were you guys able to hear that? Roy, were you able to hear that?
Nothing. I heard nothing.
Oh, seriously?
I don't know if anyone else did.
No, I heard it.
I was.
I heard
able
it.
to hear
It was good.
Yeah, I heard it. It was
Oh, you
good.
guys heard it. Okay. My biggest issue was just making sure that the volume was on. Okay. So, in all of that, and we see now, we can see where there was a solar eclipse. This, when we have this understanding, when we have this diligence of seeking, we've understood these things. It's right there for us, and we've understood it. This is why I can't stop. And what I mean by stop is I can't just say, well, maybe it's 70th or maybe 70s in one more year or 2 more years or 3 more years. It's not biblically, from everything we can understand, from everything that's been shared. It's not possible. Everything lines up. His birth, his death and resurrection, the year of Tiberius, the sun, moon, and stars, the Jubilee, the 7-year counts, the Revelation 12 count, the 7 years for our ministry, if that means anything. The KJV being 7 years in a cycle. Everything is telling us. Oh,
absolutely. And I'd like to add to that, we've got a biblical chronology.
Yes,
We
you
have a
followed. You did a big
chronology.
track. Yeah, you did a big
I've
track on
spent
that,
a lot
didn't
of time on that. Yeah, we've and this is the amazing thing. We have a chronology that takes us right all the way from Adam to the baptism of Jesus Christ, exclusively on the Bible. You don't have to refer to any other source, and you can complete the chronology. And the amazing thing is not even a new discovery. It's been around for 110 years. It was discovered by a guy by the name of Reverend Martin Anstey. And it boggles my mind that the church hasn't taken the time to, you don't even have to be, it's all laid out. He's laid out everything there for you. You just got to follow his logic in deciphering the chronology. I mean, yes, it wasn't just a breeze through the scriptures. He had to dig in, and he digged in, and he dug and he dug and he dug, and he sorted out all the little complexities in terms of completing the chronology. The interesting thing is you needed the New Testament to complete it. So anybody who doesn't have the New Testament would not be able to complete the chronology, because there's some confirmations in the New Testament that prove it. And that based on that biblical chronology, Jesus was baptized in 29 AD. So we have an additional witness. And it's such a beautiful thing to actually see, if you actually spend the time just understanding that our Lord God has provided us with a complete history, all the way from Adam, all the way to the baptism of Jesus Christ. And it's all there. You don't have to go to Claudius Ptolemy's canon to try and complete, because that's what's happened here. Just very briefly, what has happened? There was a big gap. There was a gap between Cyrus and let's call it modern times and Jesus, the crucifixion. There was a big gap where there was no biblical chronology. and there's no history other than what Claudius Ptolemy was able to put together, and it was all about the kings of Persia, the whole that to fill that gap. So all the Christian and secular, all the scholars on chronology, they go to Claudius Ptolemy's canon to complete that time. But what Reverend Martin Anstey went and did is he looked at the Daniel prophecy. Daniel 70 weeks closes the gap between where chronology stops, where the information stops in the word. There's a bridge of that 490 years, the 483rd years when Jesus was crucified, brings us to 29 AD. So when we add that to the whole mix of what Alan just listed out here in terms of proof of where we are in terms of the 7-year cycle, I have no doubt in my mind that we understand where exactly we are. Now it's just a matter of where in this year is it going to happen, as far as I'm concerned, at this point in time. It's just a matter of where in this year.
Exactly. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's
Me
everywhere.
too.
And
Me
if you
too.
guys have seen the stuff that Ivan did in it, in tracking it and going down, and you see, because this is what happens, like Ivan said it, and he was a little bit, nonchalant, because what does he do? He does what most of us here do, diligently seeks. You see, so for us, we might say, he laid it all out there for us. Everything's there in Scripture. All we got to do is what? Seek. It's there for those who seek and search and are diligent. And then when we come across it, everybody's like, oh, how did you find this? How did you find that? Diligently seeking and searching, right? Watching and praying, seeking and searching. And he rewards those who do. And this is what we're saying. It's, I get excited. You guys know I love doing the teachings, and I love doing the Zooms too, because I just, the fire just builds up, and the passion and the excitement and the joy that we're talking about the Lord and digging in closer. You realize while people want to make fun of you of being a watchman and seeking and searching out the Lord, you know why they don't get it? Because they don't love him the way you do. They're not as passionate
Amen to
about
that.
him.
Oh, it's so nice, Alan. Good man.
What other reason could there
Good
be
man.
from somebody saying, man, do you realize the Lord is coming soon? I could show you. Look at this. Look at this. It's got to be around here. We're so close. It's diligent. Get ready, man. We love the Lord. Oh, yeah, I love the Lord too, but you're a little crazy. You might think you know that stuff, but no. Look here. Let me show you this. Nah, man, it takes me too long to get through that. I'll talk to you later. It's a difference. It is a difference of the spirit within. So though it can bum us out sometimes, though it could bring us down temporarily, just know there's a reason why he's in you stronger than others. And as they seem to mock you or want to put you down, man, stand up and smile, because just like he said in his word, he told us this, right? They'll make fun of you. They'll ridicule you. They'll do all these things to you because they did it to me. So guess what? If they did it to him, they're of course going to do it even more to us, right? Or as much to us. So, man, this is what I love. Like-minded brothers and sisters, digging, seeking, and searching. And let's realize, let me just put it out there so everybody realizes what we're talking about here today. We're talking about a difference of days and weeks. Not months. Yeah, and I mean weeks from like where it first was, August 12th, We're talking about a difference of weeks and days remaining, not months, not years. So we could take a deep breath, enjoy what we're seeking and searching. We might be more adamant on this side, and others might be more adamant that it's the other one. But who gives a rip? It's days. It's days.
Along with what you,
right? Not months or years.
What you're saying with Paul, we're being crucified in Christ. Paul was crucified in Christ in the age of grace. And, we're coming to the end of our 7, but at the end of the 7, when you get to the 7th year, the easy 7, the 7th year is still the toughest.
That's right. That's right.
No one knew. No one knew the last day. No one. Not Noah, not Moses, not the disciples. No one. Like,
reserved for the time of the end.
Not the 3 kings, not Mary, No one did.
Yeah.
No one did.
No.
So like I personally, this is just me personally, I don't get this whole, like, I want to say that I found the day. No, doesn't
Exactly.
matter.
And that's the whole thing. I'm glad you brought that up. I don't think I've had anybody accuse me of something like that. Oh, you just want to find the date so you could be the person to set it. I've never had anybody accuse me of that, and that's a great thing because that's never been my intention. So obviously, hopefully it has come across. It's not about saying, "Oh, I was the one that found the date. Now everybody come and follow me." Heck no, we're hoping to not be here. Why would I care about come follow me? I don't want anybody following me. It's not about that. It's been the process because of what we have been revealed, that having been given the revelation of the open books and the revelation of Jesus Christ, these mysteries hidden from the beginning, part of that process is what? The beginning. If we've got the storyline, we know, if we can know where it begins and we know where it ends. We've got the stuff in the middle, not to minute details, but the overall picture, more than has ever been revealed in history. So what starts it and what ends it? Well, part of the picture, right? And so that's why I've always wanted to diligently keep on it as well, because for me, I know and I believe that it is part of the picture of the revelation itself. So whether we get it bang on the date, it really is insignificant, but we want to just keep diligently seeking and searching, because what happens is, as we have such a high watch date as we've had, then some people get really down. I get down a little bit too. I get frustrated, not a down, but more like a frustration. And so what happens with others? I mean, I'm the one, I've received the understanding. I've been led in it through the Spirit. You guys see it and you guys are growing in it. But for me, as one seeing that and putting it out there, when people are listening and people are hearing and people are seeking, they're saying, well, if Alan said that, sometimes they put a little bit too much emphasis on Alan said that. And so when it comes and goes, as it has, some people get really saddened, some people get really disappointed. And so, I don't want that to happen, but I can't help diligently seek and search for that time frame because it is part of the story. So with that, I'm going to be much more cautious on saying, this is it. I know it. This is it. If you ever hear me say that again, it'll be a thus saith the Lord. Outside of that, it's I believe what we're seeing, where it's pointing to, is what we're talking about. And I think what we're sharing today, what Ivan's going to share, what I'm going to share, these times that we're looking at here in September, I believe it's somewhere in that mix or one of them. The evidence is there. 29 AD is true. The revelation of the Jubilees is true. There's no other option, in my opinion. So with
this ministry has always been about preparing the worker. It's never been about, we started figuring stuff out with the 70th year and whatnot, but it always transitioned into preparing the worker.
Absolutely.
No other ministry's doing that.
Yeah. There might be some, but touch on it here and there, but the focus.
But you got to be you got to be tried through the fire.
Yeah.
You can't have any defectors. There's only one son of perdition. So the rest of us have got to be, refined, prepared, battle ready.
You got to live right before the Lord. It's very simple.
Perfect. Right? All right. Let's see. I think just before we get going here, Ivan, you were noisy there for a moment, Isaiah, so I muted you, but I'm going to unmute you. Come on, unmute. There we go. Did you have a question? You were going to say something earlier, Isaiah?
Well, after what you just said, I just wanted to say, if we look at the story in Acts, kind of like the same situation happened where they were waiting in the upper room for the promise of Jesus to return. And then after a certain time, they started not losing faith, but like wondering like, oh, is he going to come? Maybe he wants us to do something else.
Yeah.
And then if you go back and look at Abraham too, he had to wait the 90, or yeah, he ended up waiting 99 years, but then I think it was when he was 86, when Sarah came and was like, oh, well, maybe, yeah, I believe the Lord's going to give us the kid, but maybe it's going to be if you have the baby with Hagar.
Exactly.
And I just think that there might be some kind of test. Oh, even if we go back to Exodus, I know Dr. Barry was doing videos about like the Feast of New Wine, but then in the story of Exodus, they waited the 40 days and they're like, oh, it should have been by now. But really, he was just about to come back down when basically they gave up and made the calf.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just wanted to say, like, look at those things and like don't lose hope, because yeah, I feel like it's this year too. But my question earlier is, I was wondering if in Jeremiah, when he had said, when he had said that judgment about the 70 years, you guys fasting and stuff, do we know when the judgment took place against them and how at that time?
Yeah,
Or is
that
that
was
just
that.
a future Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the one in Jeremiah, that was the one connected even to like Second Chronicles. It was 36. That was the one connected to the 5th and the 7th month and all of that conversation. Yeah. That was the connection there. And and this is kind of what's happening, right? Because what we're seeing is, are we looking exactly to the 5th and to the 7th? Well, the 5th and the
Well,
7th, according to them, is gone, but is it really the 5th and the 7th, right? Or the calendar's
what
all
I
screwed up
mean
so
is,
much that it's over here?
yeah. Well, what I mean is, was it after those 70 years expired, exactly that year that it happened? Because if that was the case, I don't know if it would have been like how we have the Leviticus, the 5 years where you come in and you got to plant all manner of trees.
Yeah.
So would that have even been taken into account then? So basically, what I'm asking is, did 70 years transpire, and on like in the 70th year on the 9th of Av, is that when the judgment came, or was it like, did some time pass additional? That's basically what I was asking.
Yeah, in Jeremiah, here, I'll even bring it up quickly. Because we have that Jeremiah, isn't that Jeremiah?
Is it 25 or 31? Are you talking about that one?
I don't know if it's the 25 one that, oh, maybe it's the 25 one, yeah. Let me bring it up. This whole land shall be a desolation. It shall come to pass when 70 years are accomplished. So that's to your question, right? When the 70 years are accomplished, did it all happen right away? Well, what the exact thought that came to me as you were asking this is exactly what we talk about when we talk about the prophetic of the churches. So we know the was played out over about 2,000, 2,500 years. We know the is playing out over about 2,000 years. The was has a typology of the 7 churches, which we have in our chapters, or sorry, in our 7 churches chart. And then we have the is of the 7 churches, right? From Christ until the moment of the pre-trib. And we could track all of them till the time we're in now, being in the Laodicean age. All of that played out over, give or take, 2,000 years. But what is the end of days? When the 7 churches will play out over again, when the tribulation, when the pre-trib happens, the 7 churches play out again, and they'll play out over 50 days and 14 years. Now, what does that mean in relation to what you're asking? Give me 1 second. What does it mean in relation to what you're asking? It means that even if the history it wasn't immediately after 70, and it was 5 years or 3 years or 2 years or whatever it was after, it's not significant to the prophetic aspect of it, because these things that played out over decades and centuries, those things that were 100 years long, in the end of days might relate to something that's only a year. So it all plays out in the picture. And that's why the 70 years is very specific prophetically, because it's even before the Lord God's true 70 years are over. There's a period of time above that comes first. And even though we thought we had it, we thought we understood it, there was 50 days left to a year's end. There's obviously something else connected and going on, because there's 50 days. The scriptures show us there's 50 days before the 14 years, which means there's a difference to the Lord God's year's ends and where things are going to actually begin. And maybe it relates to that 2-3 month off in the movement of the sun and the relation to Enoch's calendar and so forth. But in relation to the 70 years, it's not to look at as well, if it was 70 years then, and then there was a few more years before it actually happened, are we waiting for those extra few years before it actually happens? No, it's specifically 70. And that's why the revelation is right there for us in Psalms 90 and 10. That's why that's probably my favorite 70-year verse in all of scripture, because it is blatantly clear that it's 70 to 80, short period of time, and then we fly away. That is 10 years, about 6 months, 3.5 years. It's the revelation of 14 years in one single verse. And when does it start? When 70 years is over. So it will be connected to the end of this 70 that has to have a biblical count revealing. You see, and I'll say this before we move it on to Ivan's count. And this is why it's such a big deal. When I spoke on that with Jesus and showing all these things and the count from Jesus and what it equaled, and Ivan has the history of it with that guy from 100 and some years ago, and it's all there. It's detailed. And it shows that it was 29. And we can see all of these counts perfectly leading it to this year. Well, here's the thing. It's not just that. It's that when we do a count from Israel coming into the land, and we know that they also had to plant, and we know that from the planting, they're the house of Judah, so it's the fall feast time. And then it's the 3 years, and then the fourth, and then the fifth is theirs, and you got your 70 years. That is also this year. So when you throw that into the mix with what Ivan said, with the sun, moon, and stars, with the history, with the scriptures of it, it's all pointing to now. And there is no gap that will come after 70. No, definitely not. Yeah. All right. So we are going to let Ivan, I'm going to share my screen. We'll let Ivan get going on sharing his portion. And we've got our brother Steve Molden here. Good to see our Aussie brother. I got that right. I'm not going to make that
Steve.
mistake. Don't worry. And who else did we see jump in? I just saw. Oh, we got a page 2. Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? Rosella. We've got Chris in there. Where's the other one? There he is. We can't see his face, but we got Steve Olwini with us too. All right, our brother from Uganda. Obviously, it's nighttime there. So with that, hello, everybody that's just joined us. Now we're going to jump this forward, and I'm going to allow the screen share, make sure I've got it turned on so that Ivan can share. I think. Screens, documents, entire screen, application windows. All right, I think we're good.
Okay, I'll share my screen shortly. I just want to say something first, because we're going to be talking about two things. So Alan is going to get on to the other part of it, and both are relevant. And this part is what I've really tried to do is keep things simple. We've got a revelation that goes back a couple of years that confirmed our 50 days and then 14 years. And when I go back to that video, and that was the one where Jadal received that confirmation by the Holy Spirit being right on target. Okay. Mm-hmm. When we go back and watch that video again, the understanding at that point in time was really very straightforward. We understood then that Israel would be attacked on the 9th of the 5th month, and that would be that the escape of the bride would coincide, or maybe slightly before, at the time of that first attack, that first mild attack. Okay, it would be followed by 50 days to the beginning of tribulation. That was our basic understanding. in a nutshell.
Mhm.
And we received the confirmation from the Holy Spirit that we were right on target. So in my mind, I'm looking to say, okay, well, on the Hebrew calendar, the 9th day of the 5th month has come and gone. On the calendar that I've come up with, which I like to call the SMS Aries calendar, where we're looking at specifically the position of speaker being on the eastern horizon at the beginning of the year. This year happened to be completely in sync with the Hebrew calendar. In other words, both the Hebrew calendar and what I believed to be the true calendar both began on the 9th of April this year. So in both of those instances, the 9th of the 5th month has come and gone. And yet we are supposed to be looking, in my basic understanding, we are supposed to be looking for the 9th of the 5th month for the beginning, for the escape of the bride and that first mild attack on Jerusalem, followed by the 50 days and then followed by the 40-year tribulation. So in my mind, at that time when I was looking, it's always a debate as to where, when we look at the sun in a particular constellation, where must the sun be to be in that constellation? Because there's no borderlines. In Stellarium, you can switch on the facility or borderlines, but those are somebody, I don't know who decided on where those constellation borderlines should be, but they're really fictitious. They're not real borderlines. So when is the sun in a constellation, and when is it actually just out of a particular constellation? That has always been that has been my biggest dilemma,
because some are bigger and some are smaller too in the constellations.
Yeah, and they're different sizes, of course. And that adds to complexity. So when you're looking for a sun and moon conjunction, you can pick a point on the constellation which appears to be just before that particular constellation, but may in fact actually be considered to be in that constellation. Or you can pick it where the following month where the sun and the moon are again in conjunction, but now it's just slightly beyond what you believe to be the true constellation, but in fact is still in the constellation in the true understanding. So
That's right.
that has always been, which side of the line do we actually start? And that affects the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
So I had another option, which I kept on the back burner, where the beginning of the year was actually 9 May, so a month later. In that instance, if the beginning of the year was 9 May this year, as opposed to 9 April, then we are still coming up to the 9th of the 5th month, which just happens to fall. The 8th of the 5th month falls on September 11, and the 9th of the 5th month would be the next day, September 12. At that time, I thought that's pretty interesting because the day has been marked for us to such a great degree. So
you'd be looking here, right?
Yeah. So 9. Yeah. So the 8th would be on the 8th of. Okay. In this case, the Jews call it the 6th month, but because they started the year on 9 April.
That's right.
And I believe that they started the year, even though they added an extra month. You must remember they did add an extra month. They added a 13th month. So they started in their book, they started their year much later than what they normally do. I mean, normally they would start in March sometime. They would start the year. But this year they started, it's probably one of the latest times in the year when they would start a year. But in spite of that, it seems to me they might still have been a month too early. And even on my other calendar, it's a month too early. And it all comes to where Virgo is in the sky. So in my calendar that happens to be in sync with the Hebrew calendar, I had, for the start of the year, I had Virgo on the horizon. And I don't know, Alan, do you think it would be a good idea to put the stellarium up?
If we do
or should I just
stellarium,
speak to it?
yeah,
Sorry?
if we do stellarium, it would have to be you putting it up, not me, because I've
No,
got too much open.
I'm just saying I don't want to, I want to help people understand it, and I can speak to it, but it might be a
I've
bit
got
easier
something
if I
for
put
you.
it.
It is easier with stellarium, but let me show you something. I don't know if this will help you at all. Does this help you? And this is just a picture I took. This is September 17th, the 16th to the 17th, where the sun is. I don't know if that helps you at all.
Yeah. Let me share screen.
That's a familiar picture.
Here, let me
Sharing is
stop
not-
share. Okay, if you want to, you should be able to share now, I think.
No, still not.
Not? Okay, give me
Takes
one
a
second.
second or two.
No, Zoom moved a bunch of things. They prettied everything up, and I don't know how it works. There, try now.
Okay, I got
Okay,
it.
good.
Now I need to do application. Let me just show the whole screen.
Yeah, it's coming up. Yeah, we got Zoom settings now. Cookie settings.
I did have
Are you just waiting
Stellarium
for?
open. I did have Stellarium open, but it somehow must have closed at some stage. Let me just open it quickly.
Okay.
Okay. Can you see? Can you see
Yeah.
my? Can you should
Yes.
have
Yeah,
Stellarium
we can
up on the
see.
screen now?
Yeah, you can see your cursor. 2024-9/7. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so if I just go to the beginning of the year, which if we go to April, this year, April 9,
4/9.
49, that would have been the start of the Let me just pause this thing. So we see here that where the sun, let's just, the moon is just past the sun. Okay, so you got the sun, but you can see the debate is this the beginning of the year? Which is the view that I've taken for a long time, based on when Jesus was crucified, the sun being in Aries. Okay, and I'm actually, that is something that I actually might be, we actually might have to change that view anyway. I know we're told by Flavius.
Josephus.
He said the sun was in Aries, but he actually might have actually misled us. Maybe the sun was actually in Taurus, even in the day that Jesus was crucified in that year. But if we just take it, so this was the beginning of the year that we considered that, which
according
is now
to the Hebrew,
in the Hebrew calendar, and the year and the fifth month is now already passed. But if we go to if in fact the beginning of the year was this one, you can see now where the sun and the moon is just passed. We're on day. Well, we can just go back a day. You can see now that this would be new moon day. You wouldn't be able to see that moon, and we're actually now. This is the point. And now, is this in Taurus or is this in Aries?
That's right, because Aries is so small. Yeah.
Yeah. So have we in fact, is this now truly the beginning of the year? Okay. Is this now truly? If this is the case, we still got then 9 September. Or September 11, September 12 would be the 9th of the 8th and 9th of the fifth month. So this is the that I'm thinking I'm looking at, and that's the possibility. Of course, there is the slight possibility, and I'll just mention it briefly. But if we go yet another month, is this in fact the beginning of the year where the sun is now right in the horns? And if this is the case, then the true 9th of the fifth month, it will be around the 10th of October.
Well, I'm gonna share something on that in relation to Taurus later. It doesn't bring us to October, but I'll touch on that with Taurus in a bit too.
But do you understand the dilemma in deciding now? Is it the 9th of May, or is it the 6th of June to be the beginning of this, or the true beginning of the year? That's the issue. Now, and it all comes down to where in the beginning of the year, where is Virgo in the whole equation? Now, look at where Virgo is. Virgo is actually quite
upper left
quite
over
high.
there.
It's almost it's almost coming. It's almost setting. Okay, the
Oh,
green
but
line.
let me
just
make a point, Ivan. Do you still want to be in Taurus, or do you want to bring it back to Aries? You probably want to go back to 5-9,
I'll bring
right?
it back 1 month.
Yeah.
Let's go back to what I believe to be the true beginning. Let's leave it there. Okay.
Yeah.
And this is the concerning thing. This where I had it before, the beginning in April, you can see Virgo is much higher in the sky. It's not so far. Let me just put on the land so that you can orientate yourself to it. Okay. The dark part is land. Okay. So this is what you would see at night.
Yeah.
All right. And Virgo is high in the sky. So the green line is the horizon. This green line here, everything below the green line is below the horizon. Everything above the green line is what you would see. So in this beginning of the year, from a Jerusalem or even from our perspective, it'll be a little bit different for the States, but Virgo is high in the sky. And that's the big question now. Where is that beginning? So I'm at this point, I'm hoping that the true beginning of the year was, in fact, 9 May, which would then mean that we're looking at a 9th of the 5th month to come up now in September, which is the date that we're looking for to be right on target in my basic understanding of what was revealed to us, what was it, 4 years ago, or whatever the case may be. So that's where I'm at. That's why I'm looking at September 11, which would be the 8th day of the 5th month if the year actually started on May 9th. And the reason why I believe the year started May 9th is this very reason. The sun had to be in Taurus or close to, we're coming into Taurus. We're just coming into Taurus. Whereas if we go another month, it'll be just exiting Taurus. So that's the one perspective of it. Of course, we're going to talk about the Festival of Ingathering as well, which is another particular aspect. And this all goes back to, I'll just cover it very briefly. If this all goes back to, we talk about going back to the beginning, as it was in the beginning. Now, the big debate is the beginning that we must be looking at, is it Noah's day or is it Moses' day?
Yeah,
if it's
and
Noah's day,
I would think they're still the same.
There's about 1,000-year difference between them.
Yeah.
And if we look at the year of the flood, this is the year of the flood. And so we would see here in this instance, the beginning of the year would be, let me just bring the moon in. You can see here where now there's the sun in Taurus. The moon is with it. So this would be the beginning of the year in Moses' day. In Noah's day. And look where Virgo is. Okay, what we also need to do, what I just need, because the time slot, let's just make it. I'll always try and keep these things just after sunset, because that does affect where these constellations are in the sky. So this would be the beginning of the year in Noah's day. The sun and the moon are together. And this particular description fits Enoch perfectly. So when you understand that Enoch describes the movement of the sun, he describes it as starting in the 4th gate. Okay, so you need to understand what the gates are. So, and when you understand the 4th gate is the one that's on the equator. Okay, it's gate 4, then it goes to gate 5. The gates are these rings.
Which, you might not be able to see it very easy for people looking on their screens, but there's
looking on a small screen, you're not going to
little rectangles all the way around.
Yeah. So the dark blue line is the equator, and then you've got the finer lines going in towards the center. And the gates, the 4, 5, and 6 gate goes towards the middle. And then he described it as going from 6, 5, 4 again, and then back into 3, 2, 1, and from 1 back to 4 again. So the description, if you can match in stellarium exactly what Enoch described, with the sun starting at this position. And the moon, the description he gives also starts in this position in the fourth gate. And those descriptions fit exactly. You can follow it word for word. You can follow what Enoch was saying in terms of the movements. You can actually reenact in Stellarium if you go to his time. If you go to minus 2,000 odd years. I've gone to 2,387, which I believe is the year of the actual flood. But a couple of hundred years this way or that way is not going to make any difference. So this would be the beginning of the year, and we can see that, you know, Virgo is high in the sky. That you can't see this. You can't see a Taurus.
Right.
When the sun is in Taurus, you can't look at it.
Yeah,
will
well,
never see it.
you wouldn't be
have
able to
look at
notice till the sunset, and then you could see that it's Taurus. When the sun sets, they'd be able to see the tail end of Taurus, the backside of Taurus.
Yeah, just the tail end. But I think what they used is that they knew which constellations were
and they knew it from
visible.
sunrise too.
Yeah. But in this instance, at sunset, you would now begin to see Virgo high in the sky for the beginning of the year.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So if you go 5 months from this, Virgo would just be coming into. We can do that quickly. So if we go, I just have to go to one.
We're looking at Regulus. How Regulus.
3.
I think I've gone
Also,
1, 2, 1.
if you let the sun spin around one time, people can see where it's rotating through all the star signs.
We can do that. All right, let me go back to.
Yeah, and just there's a little bit of a delay on our end when it actually moves. So.
Yeah.
But you don't have to wait for us for it. There's your Taurus. Okay.
Okay, so this is the beginning of the year. We can fly through that. So if we just jump by the days.
Yeah, just hold the cursor down. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's month 1 complete. We're in month 2 now. That's month 2 complete. We're in month 3 now. Month 3 is now complete, and we're in month 4 now. Month 4 is complete, and now we're in the 5th month, and we want to be round about for the quarter moon. That would be close to the 9th day, 8th or 9th day.
That's right, right there, right at about her shoulder, like clothed with the sun.
Yeah. Let me
hold on to that.
Time
Remember that.
So this is the day that we in Noah's day. Remember, we're still in minus 2,387. In Noah's day, the 9th of the 5th month, this is what it would have looked like. Virgo is setting. So if we want to translate this now to our time, and we want to find that same picture. The sun is at her shoulder, and we just go a little bit further to get to a
the 16th, 17th.
Sorry, you want to
you're
go
1
further.
month too far. You're 1 month too far. Go back to 9.
Too far. That 9.
And then go to the day of 17.
Well, okay, that would be
go to 17.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Okay, you want to bring it to the shoulder. I'm just saying that would be
that's because that's exactly what you had, right? You said where you showed the sun was at her shoulder, and I just said clothed with the sun, and you had said yes. So that same date would be this year, September 17th. So if you go to September 17th, you'll see the sun clothing her shoulder.
But yeah, I get it, and it's full moon. Yeah. So, but that comes into what we're going to be talking about just now. So this is the thing. We're trying to find a picture of the 9th of the 5th month in Noah's day, and we're trying to match it to our time. It looks like it could be this, but actually, the truth of the matter is,
if you add 3 days, the 17, you get 20. And you'll see it right on her shoulder.
So why are you going to October now?
If you go to 20, 20 or 20 there. Sorry, yeah, you want to take the sun right on her shoulder. That would be 24.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, you're back in September. For a second, it still said October. Yeah, so there you go. For in September, yeah, it's in that time of the solstice. I mean the
Yeah.
equinox. That's
The equinox, yeah.
Yeah.
Equinox would be, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, 21st and
Yeah.
the 22nd, Jerusalem to the west and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a significant role that we'll see as well.
Yeah.
I remember-
So these,
Remember you're teaching about the equinox, right? The day and the light chasing each other,
Mhm.
Alan?
The day and the light chasing each other. I don't remember the chasing light.
Like, you know, the light, the light given up to the night. I forget the
Oh
the
yeah. In relation to Jesus coming in the darkness, you mean?
Mm,
And shedding his light?
Mm.
I don't know if it's that. Well, we'll see. We'll see if I roundabout in another form get to it when I'll share on my portion.
I'll just show you one last interesting thing related to this. If we go to Moses' day, the date
Like
of the Exodus,
1441 or 1440-ish.
yeah, on
Isn't
the
it
wrong
something like that?
chronology. On the correct chronology, it's that. Sorry, Alan.
Well,
But
yeah, I don't know.
it's-
Mine's always that guesstimate.
Yeah, it's on the other chronology, which is not. This is the one based on that Anstey came up, and the
Okay.
date of the Exodus was actually 1530. I always
Okay.
remember that number because of the 153, and wasn't
Oh, yeah.
it wasn't forced. It just happened to happen that way.
Yeah.
But that's a good
So if
point,
we just-
Ivan, that you make. That's a good point, Ivan.
Sorry, I'm not sure what.
Well, you're pointing out the 21st of September?
Yeah.
24th of September. That's what I believe what you're saying.
So here,
I just want-
I see what
I
you're
just
saying
wanna
in
get the-
Moses' day.
In Moses' day, this would be the 9th of the 5th month. And so where the moon is at about half,
Mhm.
the sun was right at her shoulder. Okay.
Mhm.
And look, and we've got this interesting thing happening. Yeah. Let me just.
Where would that be in like present time?
Well, that's what he's kind of showing what September is to us now, but where it was back then was further, and where it was with Moses a little bit different from the flood.
Yeah. So yeah, in Moses' day, the 9th of the 5th month would have been in our Gregorian dates around
About
August.
August. Yeah.
Yeah, 21. But I just thought it interesting. We had a conjunction.
Yes.
Yeah, this is similar to that conjunction that we have on 2 BC with Jesus' birth.
What is it? Jupiter and Venus?
Jupiter and Venus. Yeah, I just thought that was interesting. That marked that
Yes.
particular day.
Very good. Very good point.
The 9th of the 5th month in Moses' day was marked. And you remember what day was this? I believe that this was the day that they worshipped the golden calf. The 9th of or in the 5th month, because he had come back from his 40 days.
Yeah.
And it was about this time. So at this point in time, they were supposed to have been complete with their wedding. Remember, they entered into an agreement then in Moses had
Yeah.
to go for 40 days. And when he came back, they had actually blown it. But it was supposed to be the beginning of their long-term relationship, except for the fact that they worshiped the golden calf,
Yeah.
which then made it necessary for Moses to go back for another 40 days.
Yeah.
And then he completed the second set of 40 days in the 7th month, either in the beginning of the 7th month or the 10th of the 7th month, some would say, which then marked the beginning of the long-term relationship that Lord had with these people. But I believe it was supposed to have been originally in the 5th month.
Okay.
Had they not blown it by worshiping the golden calf.
Yeah.
Now, this is going to lead us onto the mentioning of the festival of ingathering. And Alan, you can maybe get into that a little bit deeper, but I just want to mention it's interesting that the first mention of the ingathering is in Exodus 20:23.
Yeah.
I think it's 23:16, which is in the time before Moses' first 40 days. So it's in the time when the ordinance were given, prior to there was the first set of ordinance. The festival of ingathering is mentioned there, and it's mentioned in terms of being more related to the going out of the year. Then the second mention is in Exodus 34, I think it's verse 22, and that is in the time when the next set of ordinances were given in Moses' second set of 40 days. So when the Lord said, you've now forgiven them, and he says, I will enter into a covenant with them. And he then mentions the festival of ingathering. But that mention of the festival of ingathering is linked to the turning of the sun, so there's two mentions of the festival of ingathering. The one is in 23, in the first set of ordinances, linked to the going out of the year, the end of the harvest. And the other one is in Exodus 34, which is in the second set of ordinances that were given related to the covenant, the new covenant, after they'd worshipped the golden calf. And it's related to the turning of the sun.
You think the ingathering year's end in Exodus 34:22 is the turning of the sun? I would say it's the opposite of that, because the feast of ingathering is when all the harvest at the year's end is brought in. That one's clearly speaking to the harvest year's end, not the sun.
One, the 34 one is definitely that word where the word end is related to the turning of the sun. Where in 23 the word end is the going out of the year. We can go into you can take the screen back if you want to, and you can go into and have a look at it. But the first one is definitely related to the going out of the year, which is end of the harvest.
Yeah, I would say the first one probably is, but the second one is probably the one relating to the other.
The second one is related to Feast of Weeks. It's interesting that the first ingathering in 23 is not linked to Feast of Weeks. It's linked to the Feast of the Harvest.
That's right. And the Feast of the Harvest is the year's end of the harvest, right? Because his harvest goes from unleavened bread to tabernacle, start to end. So that's the year's end of the harvest, which is ingathering,
Year's end of the harvest,
which isn't the circuit of the sun.
No, that's not, and that's exactly what I'm saying. So the first
okay. I thought you were saying the one in 34:22 was related to the sun. No, it's related to the harvest. Okay.
No, 34:22 is related to the sun. Alain, go and have a look.
Okay, well, yeah, we're switching them, but that's okay.
You can take the. I'll stop sharing. You can take back the screen. You can go back
I'll
to.
Bring it up.
Go to Exodus 23:16. I think it is, if I recall correctly.
What is it? Exodus 23.
Exodus 23. I think it is. I think it's
I think
16.
you're talking about. I think you're talking about tributes to the sun and tribute to the Father. One of the harvest and one into the sun. And I think you're talking about one that glorifies another. I think you're talking about.
Let's have a read. Let's see. Exodus 23:16, and the Feast of Harvest.
You see, it's not the Feast of Weeks. It's the Feast of Harvest.
The Feast of Weeks, yeah, is the Feast of Harvest, the first fruits of thy labors, which thou hast sown in the field, and the Feast of Ingathering, which is in the end of the year.
Yes.
When thou hast gathered in, So this one you could say is like talking about the harvest one, right? The end of the year harvest. But
that word end is going out of the year. Just click on the H. Yeah. That is
the end of going out.
It's
meaning year, revolution of time. You see, in revolution of time for a year, this revolution of time is never connected to the sun. This revolution of time is usually connected to the harvest. Yeah.
Harvest. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Exactly.
So let's go look at.
Linked.
Then let's go look at 34:22.
That's why I mentioned the sun. You're talking about something that tribute to the Son and tribute to the Father.
It might be, yeah. And so
in a more deeper discussion point.
Yeah, I can't. I'm not saying yes or no, but I know exactly what you're getting at. It might be the case. in Exodus 34:22, and thou shalt observe the feast of weeks. So now we know it's the feast of weeks of the first fruits of the wheat harvest, comma, and the feast of ingathering at the year's. You see, so we got that same year revolution at the year's end. So we've got this as the revolution of
hang on.
harvest.
Whoa,
Hold on,
whoa,
no, I
whoa.
know. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. This one is clearly that same revolution that we were talking
Yeah,
about
it's the
with
same one.
harvest, but the end is different. And this is what we're going to get into when I go into the portion of it,
That's the
because
Father.
we've got the two tekufas, right? There's two
Yes.
tekufas, one with this and one
Yes.
without it. One relates to events in the year, which is what
Yes.
we're talking about here, the harvest. This is what I was talking about at the beginning. To the Lord
And that's
God, there's a
the difference
beginning
between
and the
the
end to his
different-
harvest. And that's
Yeah,
what we
that's the
spoke about
difference.
in the last teaching.
the difference between a convocation and a moedim, right? One is to the Son and one is to the Father. One is to the Son and one is to the earth. One is to this. So
Okay. I know what you're saying. I don't know which one it is though that goes to which though.
no.
Do you
In
go, do you know
But
it?
I see the
23.
difference. I see
Yeah.
the difference. But
But you can see the difference, yeah.
In Exodus
so-
23, before verse 16, it said in the month of Abib, if I remember that, if I read that correctly. When is the month of Abib again?
That's the first month of the
first
year.
month, yeah.
Okay.
And so with this Tekufa, and what I was saying kind of early on in the beginning is in the last video, it was about this one, which is of lapse of time. And this lapse of time is related to this year, a revolution of time. And this connection with it is what we were talking about in the last teaching of the year's end. That was the end of the harvest season. But we already knew there was more than 1 year's end. And the other year's end of the other Tekufa is the one that is the course of the sun. And that's the other picture of it. So we're looking for something that obviously now isn't going to be to the year's end of the harvest, because that year's end of the harvest, for one, isn't connected to us. The pre-trib is the 50 days before that. So what we're looking for is something connected to the circuit of the sun. And this is something we did know. We have talked on this. We have shared on it, and we know why we shared on it. And today, excuse me, in the portion that I wanted to share, in seeing what Ivan was talking about, let's bring up this portion with, actually, let me just bring this back so I remember why I brought it, why I had it. And so in relation to what Ivan was sharing, in seeing that additional month, it's interesting that he's seeing it as this additional month. And the reason you're going to see why I find it interesting is because it would appear we had this additional month, not a 2-month thing, but a 3-month thing. And you'll understand as I get into show it. So what Ivan is showing, and here's the other thing, our brother Steve Molden, which there he is, just popping up on the screen. I don't want to discredit what his audible was. We know that he had this audible, and it was as powerful to him as the revelation of Right on Target was to me, and as many other things have been to some of you in your lives. And so here's September 11th. And in what Ivan's talking about, if you take that additional by simply going there, even though they've added a month this year, there's still one more month because of how late they are in the year and where things should have started and all of that. Ivan's saying this is the 7th Sabbath picture. And there's your 9th of Av now in Elul, because it's a difference of a month because all the calendars are screwed up. And this would be tracking in what Ivan was saying. So our escape would be sometime in here when the 7th Sabbath or the 8th of Av as Elul is over. And there's your 9th. And then you would take it, of course, your 50 days. And where that would end a year, the 50 days later is again your month off to where what Ivan would say is true Feast of Trumpets. Now, am I in disagreement with it? Nope. One of the big reasons is we've also got our September 11th in here. This is our brother Steve's audible from a very long 40-day fast. So I don't take that lightly. So what would it be if this is the end of the 7th Sabbath by being a month off? and this begins the 50. We know it might be evening to evening, but most likely sunrise to sunrise. And what do we see in John chapter 20? At dawn, very early in the morning. So where are we? We're over here on the 7th right now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Give it 4 to 5 days. It's not a big deal. And what I'm talking about is 2 to 3 days difference. So in what I'm going to be sharing and what we're talking about, this is just to have fun. This is just to be strengthened, to be encouraged, to keep us watching, to keep our eyes peeled, and to be ready. Not to just say, oh, we'll just let it be and it's around here somewhere. And then some people are like, but I don't know. What about this? So at least we can be encouraged and get together and share in this, right? So I am not in disagreement with this possibility at all. I'm actually very hopeful and more so looking to that. But what I also want to share in this is another piece that dawned on me yesterday or the day before. And it was because of a post that Ivan shared in the forum. So anybody who's watching and isn't part of the forum and Ministry Revealed and you want to be, just come to go to ministryrevealed.com and go to the menu box, click on forum. It'll take you 5-10 seconds to sign up. It's free. 12 to 1,300 people all over the world, like-minded brothers and sisters watching and sharing and just diligently seeking the Lord. You can come join us in there and share on anything you'd like, any questions, prayers, all sorts of things. So here's something that we've shared on a number of times, and it just caught my attention. It caught my attention in the last teaching, but only to the extent that I was looking at it to the last teaching, meaning Taurus to the Feast of Weeks, and here's that count. But in the last day or so, it dawned on me that, wait a second, if that's where this is, and this is where that is, then that should also be here. I'll show you what I mean. So remember this, we shared about this. Taurus was a sacred bull that was associated with the renewal of life in spring. Remember what I was talking about? Why do you think the Jews who had fled from Egypt were now in the wilderness? Why do you think they've made a golden calf? Because that's what they worshiped. Because of what? Because it brought renewal. It was their spring. It was their beginning of the year. It was when the Nile would flood. All of these things. It was their beginning. Well, we know that, don't we? We know that Taurus is the beginning. And what did we show in the last teaching? That Taurus, the sacred bull, was associated with the renewal of life in spring when the spring equinox entered Taurus. Hello. When the spring equinox entered Taurus. So when the sun was full, see, the constellation would become covered by the sun in the western sky and spring began. What do we know about this? Same thing we talked about here. That the Jews, right? Actually, just later in the same paragraph, to the early Hebrews, Taurus was the first constellation in the zodiac, and consequently, it was represented by the first letter of their alphabet, Aleph. So, watch this. If Taurus began the year at the spring equinox, check out this. It began the year right here. This is the equinox, okay? Let's look at it here. 2024 vernal equinox, spring, March 19th, 2024, 11:06 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So Jerusalem on the 20th. So we're looking at that 20th, 19th into the 20th, okay? So we come into the 19th to the 20th of March. According to ancient writings, the beginning, and thousands of years ago, and they're everywhere. That's why you see the sun between the horns in Taurus when they worship the golden calf. It's because the sun was in Taurus to start their year. And that's when a renewal would come and they would have growth and the water would replenish everything. That's why they worshiped it. Well, check it out. When did it say? It began the year at the equinox. Taurus began the year at the at the spring equinox. The spring equinox in 2024 is March 19th to March 20th. But where is Taurus in 2024? Look at that.
Oh, man.
Taurus, the month of the Hebrew month of Sivan, Taurus this year is in June.
14.
Like Ivan had said, it's like it's a later start this year than it often is. And where is Taurus? In June, and the midst of Taurus is what? Summer solstice. How did it get all the way to the summer solstice? There's your summer solstice, summer, June 20th, Eastern Standard Time, 4:51 UTC 2051 hours. So June 20th, right here, summer solstice in Taurus at the horns. According to ancient writings and every other writing about this, that used to be the spring equinox. Now it is the summer solstice. This year, it is exactly the midst of Taurus and the summer solstice. So, what if we just picked up this calendar, leave a copy there, and then pick up the calendar and slide Taurus's summer solstice over to where the spring equinox is? Because that's where the beginning would be, right? If we were to go back to the beginning as it was in the beginning, right on target, then we want to have where the summer solstice is of Taurus is supposed to be as it was in the beginning back here at the spring equinox. Which means what? Which means if we're moving Taurus from the summer solstice and we're moving Taurus to the spring equinox, then what happens to the fall equinox? It moves to the summer solstice. That means Virgo used to be what? The summer solstice. Virgo used to be the summer solstice. If Taurus used to be the spring equinox, then Virgo used to be the summer solstice, because now Taurus is the summer solstice and Virgo is the spring equinox. I mean, the fall equinox. So all we've done is we moved where the world has it right now, and Taurus is here and the spring equinox is here and the Virgo fall equinox is here. And all we're doing is sliding it over. So now Taurus is the beginning and Virgo is the equivalent of what was the summer solstice. So what does that do? Exactly what we did in our last video, right? There's the beginning. And then what? Then we should have to a point where Virgo, which is right here. No, right here. Sorry, this is, by the way, this is the autumn equinox, September 22nd, Eastern Standard Time. So there's your September 22nd. Sorry, it goes from, so on the Hebrew, of course, so it would go from the 21st to the 22nd of September. Okay? This is pretty wild. So this was back in the beginning, before they all went out of whack in what we call sped up. Ivan, explained it when he was saying, it's the what is it? Ivan, what is it again? The
ecliptic.
Ecliptic. So to make it easy, I say it's sped up. The sun is sped up, but we all know, if we study it, it's the ecliptic that has caused this appearing to speed up. Okay, so the ecliptic has moved. So here's now what happens. Back at the beginning, Taurus was at the spring equinox. Right now, it's at the summer solstice. So we're saying, look at the summer solstice as it were the spring equinox. And we're saying, what is the fall equinox? We are saying it's what was in the beginning would have been the summer solstice. So what was the summer solstice back in the beginning? It was Virgo. And what was it called? The year's end. It was the circuit of the sun. So if we go back to the beginning, Virgo at what is now the fall equinox was the summer solstice, and it was the year's end, or the circuit of the sun of this tekufa that we've been talking about. We're looking for this course of the sun, not related to the harvest, but related to the sun. And back in the beginning, this right here, what is now September 21st into the 22nd, used to be the summer solstice. So now watch what happens. If this is the circuit of the sun, remember what we need. Remember Revelation chapter 12? How many times have we shared on Revelation chapter 12 and what it means? Revelation chapter 12 is the picture. It's the picture of the beginning of everything. What do we know? What have we shared? You guys have probably heard me say it if you've been around for a while, like 100 times. The bride of Christ is either escaping right before Revelation 12:1, or what I used to say for a long time is from the very end of verse 1 before verse 2 starts, right? You guys have heard me say that many, many times over the years. Why? Because we know that the travailing in birth is a picture of the 40 days of the Son of Man. What have we shown in this? How do we know it? Well, we can literally prove it by going into Isaiah, which is where it was in the beginning of the revelation here in this ministry on September 8th, 7 years ago. In Isaiah 66, verse 7, before she travailed. So in Revelation 12:2, it says, and she travailed. So this says, before she travailed, she brought forth, which means before the events of verse 2 begin, the pre-trib has happened. So is the pre-trib happened at the end of verse 1, or does it actually happen before verse 1? And in the last year or two, I believe that it happens before verse 1, and I'm going to explain it. And I think we can even get a better picture of it now, as you'll see. So we have before she travailed, she brought forth. Well, before the travailing, what is the travailing? That's the 40 days of the Son of Man. And we can prove it because then it says, before her pain came. So what came before the pain? The travailing, which means during the travailing, but before the pain, she was delivered of a man-child. So when we go back to Revelation chapter 12, we see in chapter 12, and she
Alan,
being with...
could I just hold you there for a sec? Could you go back to that one again where it says Isaiah? It says rejoice with Israel. Rejoice with Jerusalem, sorry. You see the title of it?
Yeah.
Rejoice with Jerusalem. I'm just wondering if that's a hint.
And there's another thing that I caught.
Why would Jerusalem be rejoicing at that time?
That's just a title added because it has more than one connotation, right? It's also a picture of when they came back into the land, people believe, too. We're talking about what it relates to in the years to come. And by the way, Jerusalem would rejoice because the land is being set free.
In Revelation 12,
yeah, that's right. Yes, because Jerusalem is,
That's right. God's jealous for Jerusalem, not the people, right?
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah.
For the white horse rider, read 666. A voice of noise from the city, a voice from the temple, a voice of the Lord that rendereth recompense to his enemies.
Because now he's about to bring the recompense.
In 12:1, it talks about crying. And John, John the Baptist, he's a voice crying out from the desert. Is that the same cry? Is that crying the same crying? Is it the same as this voice right here by the chance? I didn't catch this voice thing, but you got a voice crying out. You got a voice crying out in the desert. John the Baptist, fulfilling Isaiah prophecy, and then you got the woman crying, travailing in birth. You had the word crying there, and I was wondering if there's some kind of connection.
Timing, though. Yeah, John's timing is a different timing in his cry.
But it might be a part of what the 40 days is about.
Because that John crying in the wilderness is one that connects to later in seals. This, it's interesting with this cried. there was something about this cried with croak, with raven. Oh, I remember Jamie shared something about that a while back. Oh, I can't recall what it was. It's kind of like on the tip of my brain. But she shared something about that, and I think this is what it was actually. You see croak as raven, and when we come to Genesis chapter 8, we know that story with the raven, with the word for raven, right? So like at the end of the 40 days, then the raven goes out. So let's go back and look at this. This crying is a croak, as in raven. So it doesn't have this connection to John, but it has this connection to
Job.
You see, what?
The Job has their cry from the ravens, the command of the ravens for Job to bring them meat.
Oh, for Job? Yeah.
Job, sorry.
Yeah. So the connection is in this same time frame in relation to raven. You know, the raven is coming at the end of the 40, so she cried. It has this connection. But let me just focus on this portion that we're trying to make clear from Isaiah chapter 66, because this is the timing that I want to show in relation to moving of the sun and what's happened. So if we know that the travailing now of birth is the 40 days of the Son of Man, and we know that before the travailing she brought forth, which means before verse 2 begins, or even before verse 1 of Revelation 12 begins, this brought forth before the travailing has happened. We know that brought forth is the pre-trib. And we know there's a 7-day wedding that's taking place before the travailing, which represents the 40 days of the Son of Man, that comes before the pained to be delivered. So we saw in Isaiah chapter 66:7 that there's a bringing forth before the travailing, and before the pained, which means during the travailing, there's another bringing forth, and it's the man-child. So there's two bringing forths. We know that the first one is the pre-trib, because the second one is the travailing of the 40 days represented as the Son of Man that comes before the pained. So the purpose of showing this is, what else do we know about Revelation 12, verse 1? It's connected to Luke 21 with signs in the sun, moon, and stars, right? So the signs, great wonder, signs in the sun, moon, and stars. When we go to Luke 21, verse 25, and there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars. And upon the earth, distress of nations with perplexity, the seas and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them for fear of looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken. So, and then they're going to see what? The Son of Man coming. This is his coming to begin his 40 days, which means what? In the period just before, which is going to be during the 7 days, at some point during the 7 days, maybe the latter portion of the 7-day wedding, there's going to be the stone's throw we've talked about so often. We know there's going to be this distress of nations from these things. We know it's connected to the sun, moon, and stars. And in Revelation 12:1, it begins with the woman. Well, who is the woman representative of? Virgo.
Virgo.
That's right. The woman is representative of Virgo, which means in any one of our other counts that got us to August, or any of those points in early September into mid-August or late August, there's not a single one of them that within that 7 day, from within the 7 day or by the end of the 7 days, where it's Virgo. None of them. It would appear exactly as we've been teaching it for years of this revelation. We've got videos that teach on Revelation 12, all of it being a picture of the 10.5 years to the fleeing, which represents the time, end time, and half a time, which is the entire picture of the 14 years plus the pre-trib and the 40 days of the Son of Man before the 14 years begin at the word pain, which is the time of the red horse rider. So, which means what? If Revelation 12:1 represents Virgo, then we probably needed to be at a point where Virgo was about to come on the scene. So if you now associate what I'm talking about that if Taurus, which is now at the summer solstice, but in the beginning, which is the revelation with Jodel, right on target, Taurus is the beginning. If Taurus was the spring equinox and is now the summer solstice, that means that whatever the fall equinox is, used to also be the summer solstice. And the summer solstice is the year's end, which is called the circuit of the sun. So now, because the sun is off course, we're now looking at the beginning Taurus, where the summer solstice is. And we would say that in the beginning, that's like calling it the spring equinox, which means if we now go to the fall equinox, we would say that's what it was when it was the summer solstice. You see, why does this matter? Because we're looking for what? We're looking for the Tekufa, right? We're looking for the year's end of the Tekufa, the circuit of the sun. But according to the circuit of the sun, at no point in the revelation would we have ever been able to get to a point where Virgo was in the picture. But Virgo, according to Revelation 12, needed to be in the picture. And we could prove it by Isaiah 66:7, that is proving out the understanding of the beginning of Revelation 12. So if the beginning of Revelation 12 is connected to the bride being gone, and then you're seeing this Virgo sign in the heavens, and this period representing 7 days, and things coming upon the earth from the sun, moon, and stars at this time of Virgo as the stone's throw, and then the 40 days of the Son of Man coming, at no point have we ever been able to connect Virgo's timing with account from the beginning being Taurus, and the sun at the turn of the year, or the circuit of the sun, being connected to Virgo. At no point were we ever able to see this connection except this year, because they've added this month, but it was still too much. There's still this off count with it. And what did it do? It pushed it so far that now Taurus appeared to be 3 months off instead of what we understood being 2 months off, because it used to be the equinox and now it's the solstice. So if it was the equinox and now is the solstice, and we're saying that the beginning should be as it was in the equinox and not where it is in the solstice, then wherever the fall one is would be the one that in the beginning was the circuit of the sun and the turning. So what does that equal? Well, that means, just as we had already found, there's our typology at the summer solstice, which is our picture of the beginning as the spring equinox, which began their year. And then what would have to happen? Well, Virgo, the autumn equinox, September 21st into the 22nd. So 21st into the 22nd is right here. So this is the equivalent of what? What used to be the summer solstice. What used to be the circuit of the sun. Which means what? Well, if we follow this Tekufa and we're looking for the circuit of the sun, you guys know where I'm going. We're going to Psalms 19.
Like a strong man.
You see? The heavens declare the glory of God. You see? It's all in the heavens. It's the constellations, the sun, and so forth. They utter his speech, his handiwork. Verse 9, their line is gone out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In him that has set a tabernacle for the sun, which is as a bridegroom, which, by the way, do you see anything about the moon? We know the moon is the thing that's all screwy. We see nothing about the moon. We see conversation about the stars with the constellations, and we see the sun. We don't see any mention of the moon. And so it says, which is as a bridegroom coming out of his chamber. So where was he? We've talked about this many times over the years. He had to be in his chamber with his bridegroom, which is the 7-day wedding. So now he's coming out as out of his chamber and rejoices as a strong man, ready to run a race. Sorry. His going forth is from one end of heaven, and his circuit, Tekufa, is unto the ends of it.
Okay,
so
I'm
what
gonna
do
be
we?
for a while. You might want to go
So we're at a point, and this is something like, how long have we set this one aside for? Right? We almost forgot about it. So we've been looking for a circuit of the sun, but it also had to have a Virgo connection to Revelation chapter 12. It had to be when the year started in Taurus as it was in spring, but also end up at a point where there was a year's end, which means an equinox or solstice of something with the sun, but also be connected to Virgo. And we know that in the midst of that week, maybe not right at the beginning, but somehow throughout the midst of that week, we know that there's a stone's throw. And we've shared on it. We've talked about it for years. And in the midst of that week is when there's going to be chaos of the Luke 21, when there's signs in the sun, moon, and stars, and things coming upon the earth. What have we explained that? We've explained that as Psalms 18. Psalms 18, the pre-trib is gone. And then you see the earth shook. People were freaking out. He bowed the heavens. He rode upon a cherub. He did fly, made darkness his secret place. I mean, the earth is ripping open, the channels, the foundations of the waters. And who is he delivering? This isn't the pre-trib. He's delivering the remnant workers, the ones that he delighted in, the ones that he's rewarding. Their hands are clean. And what is he going to do with them? Well, remember, they're going to be so strengthened, they're going to be able to what? Bend a bow of steel, right? This is that relation to that remnant workers, which is in direct association to what happens in the wordings of Luke 21 in the midst of that chaos.
Let your hands be strong.
That's right.
That's right. It's building.
Right? So right in the midst of that chaos, he's telling these guys too.
The correlation to that.
Here's that
100%.
chaos, the correlation to Virgo, the correlation with the sun, moon, and stars added at a circuit of the sun when the Psalms 18 afflictions are falling upon the earth. And here he is coming as the Son of Man for 40 days, which would be after his wedding when he's coming out of the chamber at the circuit of the sun. And when these things begin to come to pass, who are the ones looking up here? It's not the pre-trib. They're already gone because we know this is the 40 days of the Son of Man coming. So you see what I'm saying in this? What we're seeing here is none of that told us anything about the moon. It didn't even say outside of Luke 21, signs in the sun, moon, and stars. But when we went to Psalms 19, we know we're looking for a circuit of the sun. This is the circuit of the sun. And if we're going back to the beginning, because Taurus was the beginning, then this used to be where Virgo used to be the summer solstice. Well, guess what? If we go back 7 days to the Lord come on the 8th day, we're looking at what? Remember I told you? Here's where Ivan's looking at. Here's where Steve, here's where many of us have talked about already being the 11th. And on Ivan's, it's in relation with counting the moon. We see that it's an addition of a month off. Well, that's essentially what we're saying too, is that there's additional one more month. However, I'm not counting it the same way as Ivan is because I'm not really looking to the moon because I still believe the moon is screwed up. And because we know it is. We can literally prove it by the Hebrew calendar count. If they're falling behind every year by 10 or 11 and a quarter days, and they wait every 2 to 3 years to catch up, then that means 100% every place where they think their moon is for their count is wrong. Obviously. So I'm not accounting for the moon. In Ivan's case, this is an account for the moon. And I am not in disagreement of the high probability that it means our pre-trib happens on the 11th. However, here's what happens. Even with what Ivan said, if we're looking at this as the pre-trib, and there's your beginning of 50 days, well, here's your wedding time, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the Lord coming back about an 8th day, somewhere in here. Well, do you know what happens? This still has some validity to it because on the 16th into the 17th of June, you see this down here? This is 2024, September 17th. And it was, I had it earlier in the day, I think in the AM time. What do you see? You see the sun at Virgo. The sun's in Virgo. Now, the sun being in Virgo, remember, like Ivan said, when it's Cancer, it could be a very short time. Virgo is a very long constellation. Libra is a very short one. So sometimes Virgo starts here. Sometimes Virgo starts way down here. This is what Ivan was talking about in the past. And what would the Jews have it now? The Jews would have Virgo starting down here. This year, actually, maybe around right here this year, they have it starting quite late. But according to the sun, moon, and stars going to the constellations, the sun is in Virgo on the 16th, 17th. And in fact, I can prove it to you. We can see it right here. This one is from 2021, and I couldn't find 2024 one. But look, it's the 16th of June. And then I saw that our sister Chantel had found one and posted about it. And here's the one that she posted from AAPS.space from Jerusalem in Israel. The sun enters Virgo September 16th, which is in about 8 days and change. So what does this have to do with what I'm talking about? Well, where Ivan and many are looking here, including myself, I'm also saying that the 14th to the 15th, without doing any account for the moon, because I believe the moon is off, if we're looking at the 14th to the 15th, then what ends up happening? You've got your 7-day wedding, and the Lord returns at what? On the 8th day at the circuit of the sun, the literal circuit of the sun. He would be coming on what is now the fall equinox, but what used to be the circuit of the sun of the solstice. And so now what do we see? You have our pre-trib, you have our 7-day wedding, the Lord returning as a bridegroom, ready to run a race at the circuit of the sun, exactly as we knew it would. And guess what? In this time right here, the sun has entered into Virgo. And so if the sun is now entering into Virgo, and we go to Revelation chapter 12, that would be telling to me that the bride is gone before Revelation 12:1, when the sun is in Virgo, represented as the sun, moon, and stars, and the great woman appearing sign of Virgo, which is during the 7-day wedding time taking place in heaven. Because look what happens. There's your pre-trib, the 14th to the 15th. And then within a day or two later, the sun has entered into Virgo. And now you can have all of that stuff taking place as the sun, moon, and stars and these events happening, lining up with Virgo, to which the sun, the Son of Man coming to begin his 40 days as the travailing in Virgo at the circuit of the sun. We've never had a count understood that included a count from the beginning in Taurus, as it was in the beginning, from the solstice, from the equinox now as the solstice, that would get us to Virgo at the circuit of the sun with the 7-day wedding that comes before.
Hey,
and
Alan.
the sun being there in Virgo. So this was why I was very excited about this as well. And it does not take away from what Ivan was sharing about either. I believe both of them are extremely high watch. And believe me, I'm even gunning for the first one, because I can't let go of our brother's Audible as well. I don't doubt it. So I believe there's got to be some sort of connection to it. But as a backup, we can now see something that is also a connection with Scripture. And look at what we had here. There's our Psalms 90 and 10 Tekufa, right? Psalms 90 and 10 Tekufa, the word is used 4 times. 2 of them, we shared this years ago. 2 of them represent the circuit of the year relating to the harvests. And 2 of them relate to the circuit of the sun in relation to the time of Christ, or like a birth and so forth to Christ. So here's the circuit of the sun. And this circuit of the sun is what? What is this circuit of the sun that we just showed? This circuit of the sun is the Lord coming at the circuit of the sun in Virgo. Okay? Watch this. When he comes for it, what is he representing? His 40 days. All right? It's when he would come after the wedding to begin his 40 days. It's connected to the circuit of the sun. And in it, we know from Luke chapter 2, Luke in order, that it relates to his 40 days as his birth, right? As a picture of his birth, because guess what? This is where it was back in the day. Well, watch this. You guys remember this one, Isaiah chapter 9. We know the first attack happens while the wedding is taking place. Then what happens? They see a great, he walks in the place of darkness. He sheds a great light. For unto us a child is born. So we know it's related to the Son of Man coming at the typology of Luke chapter 2, as Isaiah 9, as a child is born unto us. But we know he's not coming as this child. It's a picture of his 40 days related to his birth. Now, knowing that, and knowing that it's connected to him coming to begin his 40 days at the circuit of the sun, as Psalms 19, let's look at the other place that talks about it. First, what is it? First Samuel. First Samuel, chapter 1, verse 20. Listen to this. Therefore it came to pass, when the time was come, about after Hannah had conceived, that she bare a son, and called his name Samuel, because I have asked him of the Lord. What are we seeing? Another birth. And at a birth for a son, what is it? 7 days and 33 days. It is a picture of the 40 days. Which one do you think this one relates to? And which one?
Priest birth. A priest birth.
And which one do you think both of these relate to? The circuit of the sun.
Absolutely cool.
Yeah.
They're both directed to the circuit of the sun. Leaving this one, the ingathering at the year's end, the harvest one, and this one, and it came to pass at the year's end that the host of Syria came up. When is that year's end? We know it's the harvest one as well, because it's at the end of the 50 days, and it's at the end of the 50 days when Syria comes and attacks, which is at the end of the Feast of Ingathering. Two of them relate to the circuit of the sun, and two of them relate to the harvests and the end of them. And it's exactly in alignment, or appears in my excitement of this all to line up with 7 days before the what is now the fall equinox, which puts us at the 14th to the 15th, and literally from the 16th into the 17th, the sun is in Virgo. So in all of this, the only thing that we don't account for is the moon, because the moon is the thing that is so gone off course in each of its months that we can't fully understand it in its right place. And this accounts and covers that now for us. It covers now Revelation 12:1, and it also covers and includes Psalms 19 in relation to that time. What it doesn't include is it just doesn't include the moon. And if you were to include the moon with the 11th into the 12th, it's very exciting as well, and it's a little bit sooner. But then what you don't have is the connection to Virgo, or the Lord coming on the 8th day at the circuit of the sun. So yeah, we're not far off.
Except that if you consider that we understand that he's coming at the full moon. You know, we know that the husband comes back with a full bag at the full moon. That full moon will be on the 17th, on the evening of the 17th of September. So it's just so I don't think we can, you know, I mean, the moon does line up. It's just which phase, you know, is it going to come at half moon? Is it going to come at full moon? And if you're right, and if that is in fact the case, that we're looking at him coming later at around about the 16th, 17th, as the sun goes into Virgo, as the moon is full, then possibly the 9/11 is a warning, a 7-day warning, possibly. You know, is that the mild attack? Is that the mild attack? Will in fact the bride see the mild attack? We've always debated will the bride see the attack or not? You know, we've been on both ends of that particular option. So would maybe the bride does see the mild attack, and that is the warning, right? We've got 7 days to go.
Or maybe it's not a mild attack. I'm fully convinced we're not going to see the mild attack. I'm fully convinced of that. However, there is something else. What if there's a Methuselah?
I'm excited.
What if there's a Methuselah that comes first?
It's a harvest moon.
That's possible.
Right? There might be a Methuselah of maybe a Trump, get him out of the way. Maybe the real old one of Biden. You know, maybe there's a connection in that form, which would give us, you know, some believe that happened 7 days before the stuff of Noah began, that Methuselah passed. So maybe
it would have to be something that it would have to be something that really means something to us, and we
Absolutely.
would then
And I would
beyond,
say
you
either a
know,
Trump or a Biden would potentially qualify, something really big. But I'm still with you. I believe the 11th to the 12th has a greater connection because of the moon as well in it. But other things that we know it misses out on, and in the other second option, it misses out on the moon, but it connects to the other things. So that's why I say there, if one passes, great, we know what to look for next. And if it doesn't, then who cares about the second one? You know?
You
Alan?
have
Alan,
Sorry, go ahead on the arc.
I came in late, so
That's okay.
Did you guys cover if both of these do the 50-14-50? I mean, 50-14-50. Does it still take that into account, or if we drop
Oh,
that?
yeah. No,
I don't know if you covered that.
No, we didn't actually cover it, but this is it all equals the same. So if it happens, it's the end of the 11th. So on our side of the world, it would be the 11th, but on the 12th would begin the 50 days. So when the 50 days end, it would be because the calendars are off still by a month, and it would bring us to what we would call Cheshvan as the actual Feast of Trumpets. So to the Jews, they wouldn't understand it. Why is this happening? November 2nd into the 3rd. September 3rd is November 3rd is my birthday too, by the way. So is it that it's going to be a month off? Well, yeah. In any one of these situations, what we're seeing is that where the Jews have their calendar, where we keep seeking this on the Hebrew calendar, is wrong. Any way you slice it, it is completely off. And we just showed that by the spring equinox to the summer solstice, that it should be over there, which means the fall equinox should be where the solstice was if we're bringing everything back to where it was in the beginning. And so when we do this and we say, okay, it's here, and then this would begin, say the 15th to the 16th of September would begin the 50 days, and we're not bringing in any account of the moon, then wherever the 50 days end after that, which would just be, what is it, that into November 3rd, 4th, 5th, somewhere in there.
Well, that would be my birthday too. So
there you go. So you see the difference between both is, the 2nd to the 3rd or the 4th to the 5th in that time frame. But what does it show us in every case? That if this is the end of the 50 days and then the 14 years begin, it shows that the Hebrew calendar is completely off. You see? And that makes sense because Ivan had mentioned this too. It was either Ivan or was Ivan or Jake that had said, I think it was you, Ivan, that you believe that the Lord, once this all begins, it's going to be a restoration of his calendar where the events will take place, right?
Oh yeah. No, I believe that just like in the Exodus story, when the Lord said to Moses, "This moon will be your first moon." Okay, we don't know exactly what he was looking at that point in time, but we know that was a restoration. Well, it seems to me that during their time in Egypt, they'd lost their calendar, and the Lord had to restore it at that point in time. So he restored it right at that Exodus. We're about to see another Exodus, and I think he'll restore it again.
I just want to clarify something that you said. You said at this moon will be the start of your year. No, that's not what it says. It says this month shall be the start of your year.
In English, it says month, but when you go look at the meaning of the word, it says moon.
All right,
okay.
All right, new moon. There you go.
This is awesome. This is exactly why I love you guys, is because you get to challenge each other. You get it's sword on sword. Hey, and by the way, Alan, if anyone asks me about calendar stuff, guess who I send them to? Not you. I send them to Alan.
You mean to Ivan?
Ivan, sorry. He's really good. He explains stuff good, and it doesn't take 3 hours.
That's right. You see, I purposely take 3 hours though. I need to. I want to make sure people are grasping these things, right? There has to be repetition. Repetition makes us masters at this. Yep.
Alan, you can take as long as you want.
And everybody else can watch at double speed.
So I have a question.
I'd like to throw in another slightly different angle. So I believe it is 9/11. and I believe that starts the 7 days of the bride. I've had 2 prophetic dreams in this last week, so I'm absolutely convinced it's 2024. Both prophetic dreams relate to, I think I shared the first one with you, but they basically relate to rushing to try and get to a cruise. And and it's interesting that both those prophetic dreams have been this week, sort of leading up to it. So really, I'm probably coming from another angle. It's sort of like, well, if this is the end, how did we get here from the beginning? And I've looked at the calendars, I've looked at everything. I even looked at the 23rd of September 2017, when the start of the easy years started 7 years ago, and that started on the 3rd of Tishrei. So in theory, it should have started on the 1st, shouldn't it? So it was already 2-3 days out from what, because that was a perfect revelation sign. Jupiter came into a womb for 9 months. It retrograded. I mean, it was probably, if you go back to the birth of Christ and you find that exact sign where Jupiter retrograded for 9 months there, then maybe at the time Mary was pregnant, or maybe at the time of his birth, then you find the start. So then you can find the start of the 21 years. So my dreams have definitely shown me it's this time, I believe. And one of the other things that came up with in both the dreams, I was with my wife and my children, and they don't follow Christ. They don't come to church. They don't have really any interest in it. They haven't for quite a number of years. But it was interesting that they both got on the ship and left, and I was the one that stayed behind. And it reminded me of a couple of things. It reminded me of why Jacob hated Leah. And I know we talk about that. And I just been pondering about, I wonder if our wives and our children go because Christ, when Christ went, he said, I have nowhere to lay my head. And I wonder if we are small stones, if we're small Christ, I wonder if we give everything that we've got away. And I wonder how easy would that be if you're going back to your wife and saying, all right, we're leaving the house, we're giving everything away, we're giving all our money away, we're walking away from our jobs. I mean, that'd be impossible to do, wouldn't it? But if you're left and you've got nowhere to lay your head, if you're sent out to a country to basically, bend iron and prophesy and to bring in the great multitude, then wouldn't it be likely that you've got no ties here anymore?
Yeah, no, I believe that. And I keep saying that with my wife too, and my wife keeps praying it. Honey, I know the Priscilla Aquila storyline, but I need flushable toilets, honey. I can't take it. So, it's we joke, unjoke about that, but yeah, I pray my family's all gone and just then take me, use me, send me wherever you want. Yeah.
And so that would make sense that they are then not particularly in case in your family, but in certainly in mine, that they then became the bride that Jesus didn't come for. It's not the one that we would choose. If we were thinking, well, we're coming from Christ's perspective, we'll just bring in all the godly women and we'll escape them out, but it's the bride he didn't come for. And the other thing is, both those dreams, and in fact, all the dreams I've had in the past, I've either been naked or partly naked in the dream, and I'd be running around there and go, oh, why have I got no pants on, or why have I got no top on? And it would be sort of halfway through the dream. Both these dreams, I had no shoes on, and it reminded me of being girthed and being ready. So what do we do when we go to bed? We put our pajamas on. So in theory, you would end up in Israel in your pajamas, wouldn't you? If you got transported. And you look down and you wouldn't have shoes on because you wouldn't have gone to bed with your shoes on. And both my dreams, I had no shoes on.
Yeah.
And it became clear to me that you end up exactly as you've gone to bed when Christ knocks and
that's the good news, is that we've got 1 week to make sure we're ready. So we'll always be able to sleep with our clothes on and our shoes
Yep.
on, that when he returns from that wedding, boy, we won't be caught in our underwear or pajamas.
Correct.
Can
Yeah.
I also give people a way to have a look? I'm a watchman of watchmen, so I watch everything. But there's also ways to see what the world's doing just by little things like this. Can I share my screen for a sec?
Yeah, you should be able to.
All right, just go there. All right, so you can get yourself free apps. You got like the this one here. So you see this area here, like there's no planes in it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that usually you don't see anything over here in Russia. They usually shut all this down so you can't see any planes at all.
Mm-hmm.
All right. There's also another oh, I can't see it. This one here is called ADS. It's another app, but it will show you military ones, so you can click on that and see which one's military. All right, and you won't see a lot at the moment because there's a lot of them around. When there's no war, then you'll see a lot more. But you can come across America, you'll see heaps because they're not doing anything. They're just flying around, and they've got to say why they're flying around. But over where they are actually supposed to be flying around, you won't see them. So these sort of things here, you'll see when things are getting hot and intense. You won't see planes here. All right, they'll all be gone. And this area here, right, planes don't like getting shot down, or companies, so they don't let them fly over areas where they're going to get shot down. So if you're looking for things that are going to start happening, look at these apps here, and if there's planes not flying in that area, then there's big issues happening.
Concern, yeah.
I'll also say to our watchmen that are dropping off, I have fought a good fight. I have finished my course. I have kept good faith. Henceforth there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness with the Lord. The righteous judge shall give me all that day, and not me only, but all them which have loved his appearing. All right, so all of us that are in love with his appearing, we'll just keep looking because that's what we do. We're in love with his appearing.
That's right.
So one of our watchmen said the other day, he said he's giving up. He says he's had enough. But he did say something that piqued my interest. He said, Paul says, then we which are alive. He says, Paul was there. And I'm thinking, well, if he's there, then it proves this verse is true. I knew a man in Christ above 14 years ago. So if Paul was there when we which are alive and remain, this is right on the time of millennial reign when it starts, then this here, Second Corinthians, is true. I knew a man in Christ above 14 years ago because he was there. All right, so God bless. Join us, you watchmen that are losing faith. Join us. Come help us. All right, and combine.
That's right.
All right.
That's what we do. We share here, man. And I get that it's tough. I get that it could be heart-wrenching, and I get it, man. I've been doing it for 7 years, and this wasn't even what I was planning to do with my life. So, it is what it is. But guess what?
Yeah, it's hard.
He will always give you the strength. It just take a little breather if you need to, chill out for a couple days, but it doesn't mean you stop praying. So even if that brother who said, look, I'm not watching anymore, you know what? If you don't want to watch anymore, but you're still in prayer, you're still seeking the Lord, you're still diligent in him, you're still, reading and seeking him out, you know what? Congratulations. We'll see you there. You don't have to be a watchman on the wall and really just in there and watching and seeking and trying to discern. You don't have to do that. As long as you are in Christ, spirit-filled, loving him, diligently seeking, eyes open, watching and praying, that's okay. We'd rather you all be watching with us, but not everybody's a watchman. Hence, there's a reason even in the ministry. I've talked about it many times. You don't have to know what we know to be accounted worthy to go pre-trib. Why and why doesn't every other watchman and every other pastor that's out there that knows, that talks on prophecy and knows that there are these differences in the Gospels, knows that there's inconsistencies with these differences, why, when we show it to all of these watchmen who have seen and heard of Ministry Revealed, and when we share it with all these pastors, having sent books, USBs, emails, everything, why do we get few to any that ever come to listen and to seek it? Is it because they're afraid they're going to have to relearn everything? Is it because they just don't take the time? Is it because they're just not that interested because they've got their own thing going on? You know, when it's something we know that the whole world of Scripture, everybody who loves the Lord and has read Scripture knows that there are these things in Scripture that they can't understand. And somebody says, hey, check this out. Look at what this means. I thought everybody would just say, whoa, this is it. Thank you. And then everybody would jump on board. But why haven't they? For that very same reason, not everybody's a watchman. Not everybody's prepared. You know, it is a group of people being prepared. And I believe that with all my heart. And the evidence is in the revelation and those who keep diligently seeking.
Hey, you guys, I have a question.
Hello, Jana.
I came in late, so I might have missed it. Brother Steve, would you be willing to share with us again what your audible was? Is that something I missed?
It was.
And what year was it, by the way? I can't remember how many years ago it was.
Oh, it was at the end of our lockdown during COVID.
Okay.
So I'm assuming it's sort of we had a lockdown of 6 weeks, and I imagine that's I wrote it down somewhere, but it's probably, it was in our summer, so it was probably sort of March 21. I'm assuming. Okay. And it's slightly different than Alan repeats it, thank you, but it's slightly different in that previously I've done 2 40-day fasts, but over this lockdown, when they locked us down, I decided to do a 21-day fast, and so I was at the end of the 21-day fast, and I was sweeping the drive, and it was a sunny day, and the Lord said to me, "Will you come to Israel?" And I'm going, and like, you know, I always argue with them. I know how John's father felt, because I'm like, how do you think I can get to Israel? You know, like, we're locked down, I'm not vaccinated, and there's no planes even flying, like the whole country's locked down, and even if I leave, you can't come back to New Zealand because you've got to get you've got to get rostered back in. And so I'm having this like argument. I'm talking myself, he's not saying anything, and so I'm having this argument, and then I go, okay, I will. You know, I've had this big rant, and I go, oh, okay, I will. And so I'm thinking, he's said nothing since that. He's asked me that question, and then I said, when do I get to see you? And he said 9/11, and that was it.
And you heard that audibly, right?
I heard that, and 9/11. I'm thinking, how is that? I mean, none of it made sense. We were looking at a completely different date at that stage, and so that's basically how it happened. And I've sort of,
Okay, so I thought it was a 40-day fast. So my apologies. Yeah. It was a 21-day fast.
Okay. It was a 21-day fast. Yeah.
Okay.
And it was interesting the other night when I had my second dream. I had it on the 7th of the 9th, and when I woke up from it, it was 8 a.m. So it must have been yesterday, Saturday. So it was, and I thought, oh, that's weird. 7th to the 9th, 8 a.m. But I went, oh, 7, 8, 9. And I thought, well, but the Americans do it the other way around. They go 9, 7. And I went 9, 8, 7. And I thought, 9, 8, 7. And then I was prompted to count the days from that day to the 11th of September, because I thought, well, that's a countdown, 9, 8, 7. And there's 6 days to the 11th of September. And I thought that was quite unusual. And then I woke up about 3 o'clock this morning, and I was praying, and I said, God, give me something for Alain. And I went back to sleep, and then this morning, before I got up for here, I got greatest light. I thought that doesn't mean anything. And so I looked it up, and greatest light is a heavy rock metal band and I thought, well, I looked at the lyrics, and that was nothing to do with it. And I thought the sun is the greatest light. So I'm sorry, I've just got to leave it with you, because that's all I got. Greatest light. If that
Thank
means
you.
anything to you in the next 3 days.
There we go. Yeah, I'm you, Ivan, with it. I get it. I have to lean more to the 11th as well. That 11th to the 12th, depending where you are in the world. But I look at this now as something we have as a backup. And in either case, this is what I was saying at the beginning. In either case, the point of this is just because we can't help it. It's in us to diligently seek and to understand this timing of the beginning as well. But was it a big deal? I mean, could we just done something else and waited for the next 4 to 7 days? Of course we can. But we would rather get together, diligently seek the Lord, just be speaking about him, sharing about him, gathering together about him, But whether it's 3 or 4 days, or whether it's 7 or 8 days, who cares? It's here. It's absolutely here. And I believe it'll be one of those, or in that realm of that time frame. As we said in the beginning, everything is pointing to it. And I have no doubt, like we were saying and commented with Ivan, when you look at it with the 70th, with the time from Christ and all of it, and that we diligently stayed even this year, when we understood the 70th year and we understood it to the Feast of Weeks, we've never, ever continued into September and continued into. Why this year? Why? Because we know this 70th. We know 29 AD. We know the count, the Jubilee. That's why the Spirit just, otherwise we could just say, well, okay, well, one more year. No, we can't. The Spirit won't let us just say, set it aside for now, because it cannot be. I'm positive it cannot be.
Last year we could do it, and
that's right.
Last year it came easy. This year it's not happening.
That's right. Last year came easy, yet we thought it was, and we went from what was it, the June one, and we went even to August, and then when that passed, it was like, okay, guess what, guys, we got one more year. It wasn't even a batting of an eye. It was no problem to say, okay, it's one more year. Not this year, not once. It's been diligent 70th year, and we have never been able to let up. And I think that means something. It means something. I always think it means something, because what we've been given. That's why I believe there's always something in these shares, and in looking at this, and people sharing this, and the September 11th, and all of these things. I believe there's a purpose within this ministry. There's a reason, and I believe it's connected to what we've been given, because we're being prepared. Does it mean everything is correct and right there and on? No, but there is meaning and purpose to all of it in what's happening. And I believe that with all my heart. And I think the evidence is 7 years of everything that's been revealed, and everybody else that's tracking and sharing their own parts and their own pieces, because they're finding things that I don't find, because they're diligently seeking through the revelation that's been given. That's the evidence. So now you add all the rest of the evidence, and bam, baby, we're here.
Well,
not much
talking
left.
Talking on behalf of all the other people, Ellen, I'd like to thank you for our appreciation for what you've done. I mean, you've destroyed my ability to go to church and sit through a sermon. Because,
man, how many times have I heard that? It's crazy.
Because I hear it and I go, that's so wrong, and but what a lovely thing not to be ignorant of that. And just to have that clarity and that understanding and that revelation that you've given us over the last 7 years is insane. I leave one last thing with you, and that is, if the revelation sign back in 2017 was on the 3rd of Tishri, then the sun was already 2 days off, and that was 7 years ago. So potentially, could the sun be off 5 days now?
Yeah. Well, it's
But
close
thank
enough
you.
that we'll see soon, brother, and
Yeah.
I appreciate it, man. It's I feel the same way you guys do. I've said it all the time. And you see, this is one of the things I always think we should always remember is even for myself, when I get down or I get bummed, whether it's a date or not, it's just something else. I always remind myself, look at what we've been given. Just sit back and think about the revelations of all of the differences in the gospels that we've been given and how it equaled the 50 days and the 14 years and how it plays out to the Jubilee and how we were able to take it back to the creation and the chapters to here. And you start pondering these things and you think, like, who the heck are we to even have any of this, knowing that it's never been given before, knowing that it's never been understood? Why? I have no idea. I mean, we've got a bit of an idea, like there's a preparation, but to fathom that we can understand what we understand is like you said, it's bonkers. It's you shake your head when you really, and you see what happens is because we get so used to it. We understand that we know it. It's so clear, and we can go into these scriptures, and it I don't tell anybody to leave church, but it pulls so many people out of the church because they just can't sit during certain sermons and think, oh my goodness, you've totally missed what that's saying, you know? And so I hear that, I've heard that probably a few hundred times over the years, but I don't do it on purpose, and I don't recommend people just quit. I know a lot of people need that community and so forth, and I think that's great. A lot of people need more than what we have here. A lot of people don't have family and friends that are believers. You know, I've got my wife who's always been supportive. I've got my kids that are supportive in the craziness of everything that's gone on over 7 years. And I know not everybody has that, but others need that church, that brotherly, sisterly love. Even though we're not on the same page, you know, you still have that connection. But you know, I think a lot of people, when they walk away, as we had heard Mark said about another brother, I think it's sometimes because they forget what we've been blessed in. The true blessing has nothing to do about the time of when it will happen. That really isn't the blessing. That's the joy at the end. That's the cherry at the end. The real blessing, as I said 100 times, is the revelation itself, because the revelation is Christ himself. It is him. And we've been given it. I don't understand. How? Why? I don't know. But it's unequivocal that it's happened. It's absolute. Now we're just waiting for that cherry on top.
Amen.
You know? And that's what we need to remind ourselves when we get a little bit bummed or, you know, Lord, but I thought this, or what about that? Just take some time, take a deep breath, and just think of everything you now know with more clarity than you've ever understood in your walk with Christ. And then just let that soak in and just say, that's right. You know, that's what it's all been about. That's the truth of what we've been given. And
Amen.
this cherry is the frustration. But it's coming. It's about to be dropped on the top.
He's a keeper of promises.
Yeah.
How could you have a conversation with somebody that doesn't know the Bible like you, and they don't want, and their paradigm won't allow them to hear you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely something different if they're not even believers. But for those that are believers, it's
if they're stuck on a 7-year tribulation, they can't hear us. Their paradigm just won't.
Yeah,
they can't adjust the paradigm.
That's right. And a lot of people, I think what happens is for all those that believe in a 7-year and don't understand this stuff going on with the Gospels, number one, it's because they won't allow themselves to, they won't take the time to, and a lot of them probably don't want to, because if they do and they begin to understand it, everything they've told everybody on will have to shift and change. And I think that's a big deal. I think that's why a lot of them won't, because they've already been telling everybody 7 years in Matthew 24.
It's way bigger than that. It's like a massive battlefield. Everybody's given their own little argument that they've joined this battle in, and they pick a side.
Yeah.
And the thing is, all you should do is desire God. When it comes to worship, right? Worship, you understand it when you hear someone say worship your wife. You go, oh, you think about it all day. But when you say worship God, you're like, well, what does that mean? It's exactly the same thing. You think of
That's
God
right.
all day. All right.
That's
So
right.
you keep your mind on God all day, or you go join one of these battles that everyone's joining. They've all got the little different battles. They're all like, oh,
Yeah.
this is the truth. This is the truth. And they sit on their battles and they pick a side.
Mhm.
Don't worry about all that stuff. Just look for God. Keep chasing God.
That's
That's
right.
it. Keep your mind on
That's
Him.
right.
Marry God. Be married to God.
Yeah. And I don't know about you guys. I know that's exactly what it has done to me. I in prayer all the time and in conversation, it doesn't matter. I'm driving somewhere. Oh, sure, I might listen to a song and I might be having a conversation with somebody, but then all throughout the day, man, it's just giving thanks and talking to them and asking about this and what about that and praying for others. And it's not because I think about it, it's just what comes now, right? And I'm sure it's no different than each and every one of you. And it wasn't like that before for me. And so I'm grateful, and I know what the revelation of the Lord in this has done for me, and I'm grateful that I've been able to share it and it have an effect on so many others around the world as well, including the our brother Steve over there in Uganda, and how many people him and his team are reaching by the tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands now. It's never in a million, billion, trillion years, if I had that many guesses, would I have said I was doing this 10 years ago? Nope.
True that.
Nope,
Yeah,
nope, nope.
good old
But
wino you.
why
Yeah.
no? And I was always an entrepreneur. I mean, I haven't had a quote unquote job since I was 24 years old. I'd always had my own
Weren't you
business
doing
and running my
modeling
own
or
things.
something? Wasn't
What's
it
that?
modeling? Weren't you doing modeling or something? Or...
Yeah, a little bit of modeling, a little, yeah. I had the top down too much on the convertible though over the years.
To be to
Yeah,
be
it's
fair, to
no,
be
it's
fair though, I took my family out last night and we all sat down and I started explaining to them, what's going to be happening in 3 days. And I tell you what, when you're explaining it, and I mean, I've written them letters because obviously we thought we were going, 31st of December, 3 years ago. And so
yeah.
I'd written more letters because they'd all gone off for Christmas.
Oh yeah, I hear you.
And so I said to them last night, I said, you need to get those letters out and reread them because, I was wrong then, but now here we are on another level. And I started to explain to them and you start explaining it in words and people just look at you and go, and you go, I'm insane. Like I, I can't believe what I'm saying. It sounds so insane.
Yeah.
Like I can imagine why people get locked up and put in loony bins.
Yeah.
It just sounds so weird, and I think, man, God is just what an amazing thing that God has just brought us, and just given us such an amazing story to uncover. But when you're trying to explain it to somebody else who doesn't understand it, it's weird, eh?
Yeah. That's another piece of evidence, isn't it? The fact
Yeah.
that you're saying you can go out about in the streets and you can talk to people and you can have regular conversations. You can go have dinner with friends and do all these things. And then you start telling them about what's about to happen and what you know in Christ Jesus. And literally tens of millions of people are just going to vanish. Vanish. They're just going to disappear from in front of you. I mean, that's not sanity, I think it's evidence again of our love and desire for the Lord. You see, because how can you believe that and be yet fit to drive a car? It's it just it sounds absurd, but with the spirit in you and the understanding and just seeking and search, it's true. The evidence is so overwhelming. Pre, mid, post is 100% true. Let everybody else argue about it. We can understand it, but to understand it is like saying, "Oh yeah,
I'm
don't
not real
worry,
bright, but I
in
can
a
lift
few
everything.
days, see you later." Oh yeah, sure. Well, everybody's going on with life, and this is what's coming next. I get it. If people don't understand it, of course, it makes it sounds like crazy talk. I get it, man. I exactly what you're saying. It sounds so absurd, but yet All you got to do is read, and as you understand it, it is crystal clear. It's coming, and it's going to happen. You know,
the funny thing is the first time, so the bride, the first time, how everybody's well, so you have the Watchman community, and everybody's like, "Oh, look, the time's coming close," and then all the people that reject, or like, "Oh yeah, I'm not looking that day." Well, like if you missed because you weren't watching, well, then you're going to be the person now looking at every single day for the rapture, like the same position that we were in. And you're going to be the one who was straight.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. All deniers will be like, "Hey, didn't somebody say there's a mid-trib? Is there a mid-trib coming too? When's the mid-trib?"
Actually, too, kind of going with that, I had a question that I wanted to ask in Luke. So we know the three gospels in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Basically, like when the question starts, it all starts with, so like in Matthew, when is the end of the world going to be, and what are the signs going to be? In Mark is, when are we going to know when these things are happening? And in Luke, they're basically asking them, what are going to be the signs when these things are going to happen? So I was going through, and there's two things I noticed. When they ask him the question, then he goes through and explains, and he says, there's going to be this sign. So like the first thing he says, there's going to be false Christs. But before that, and then he says, nation against nation. But before that, and then he gets to the part where he says, I think it was
the wars and commotions.
Yeah, and then he has another before that. Then he says, but before all these things, they shall lay their hands on you and persecute you. It's 21:12. Delivering you up to synagogues and into prisons, and being brought to kings and rulers for my name's sake.
Yeah.
So after that point, there's no more before that.
Yeah.
And also going with this, he's saying, so they ask, what is the sign we're going to see? So like, what's the sign before all these things? So up to that point, he's saying, these things have to happen first. So like something I was interested in is after that point, he starts saying them and they.
Yeah.
But so the reason why I'm interested in this is because what is the point? What is the point in which we get to the part where you escape all these things? So what? Because if everything,
it's not in chronological order, right? So
yeah.
Let me bring up Luke 21. It's funny. I was just having this conversation with another brother, Mark, the other day.
And before you say this, I'm asking this with basically, so Luke's perspective is from the bride's perspective. Mark's perspective is from the sleeping church's perspective, and Matthew is from Judah's perspective.
Yeah.
So when he's saying you, well, that makes me think these are the signs. Because if these aren't signs we see, then you didn't answer the question.
Yeah, but remember who he's talking to. He's talking to his disciples. Right? He's not just talking to everybody. So he's speaking to his disciples. And who are his disciples? They're his servants. See? So he's speaking to his servants. Let me start let's go from the end, and then I'll bring it to the beginning. When we go to Matthew, watch what happens in Matthew chapter 24. We know that Matthew is, of course, the 7 years of trumpets, that's 6 to the 7th. And when we see the coming of the Son of Man in Matthew 24:29, we know this is at the end of the 6th year of trumpets, which is the end of the 13th year of tribulation. And he's here and he's going to fulfill that 14th year excuse me, as the days of Noah. So in this conversation of the coming of the Son of Man, when is it? Well, it's at the end, right? It's at the end of Judah's portion, at the end of 6 years to start that 7th year. When we go to Mark's discourse and we look to the coming of the Son of Man, so even in Matthew's, it's the end of the 13th year. Then you have the 1 year as Noah, which takes you to the end of the 14th year. And then all of them that had flown away on the wings of an eagle at the end of 14 years at the Jubilee will be brought back. So in Matthew's portion, there is no taking. Remember, it's he returns, it's feet down, and theirs is the city, right? It'll be Jerusalem and their millennial reign. In Mark's portion, we know that there's a taking. It's the mid-trib great multitude rapture. But in Mark's, it's at the end of the 6 years of seals, which is a picture of the Lord coming at the start of the 7th year. And we see it right here. Here's the coming of the Son of Man after that tribulation, right? We know this is him coming at the end of the 6th year, start of the 7th year of seals. Now, at this coming, we know that there's a group that is being taken, right? And this is the group, the mid-trib great multitude rapture, and they're going to paradise. So in Matthew's, it's his return feet down, the final year, and then he's going to gather them back out of the wilderness, and they're going to have their millennial reign. In Mark's, it's his coming. Then in that 7th year of seals is the great multitude rapture. Well, Luke's is very different. Luke's is different than both of them, because what you see in Luke's is the entire storyline is different. So if we go to 21, let's even start in Luke 21:9. But when you shall hear of wars and commotions. So again, right off the bat, commotions is different than Mark and Matthew's as well, because the other one's wars and rumors of wars. Be not terrified, for these things must first come to pass, but the end is not by and by. Now, I don't know about you guys, but this verse right here, whether it's Luke, Mark, or Matthew's, I don't think anybody has a clue. I don't think anybody knows. How many times have there been wars, rumors of wars, commotions of wars, since before Christ, let alone to this point? I don't know what it is that we're supposed to understand in it, because wars and commotions, I mean, it's everywhere. But
that's one of the things I think that so like how they're saying the war in Israel right now, the way that I'm looking at things, I don't even think that's it.
Exactly. A lot of people would have tried to associate it to this, but you could have said that about the 1967. You could have said that about the 72 Yom Kippur War. You could have said, I mean, there's many times where this has happened. So I don't think this is it either. I think what it is, I believe this relates to the beginning of the 50 days, the attack of what we would call the 9th of Av, the first attack after the pre-trib. And let me show you how I can explain it, because I just had this conversation with Mark the other day. Okay, listen to what it says. So, wars and commotions, be not terrified, for these things must first come to pass. Okay, now watch this. If we go down to verse 34 through 36, okay, take heed, don't be caught unawares when that day comes. For as a snare shall it come upon all them that dwell on the face of the whole earth. So when the pre-trib happens, the whole world is going to be caught off guard by it. And then, of course, we know crazy things are going to come about, as we were just sharing. But listen to what it says now in the famous pre-trib escape verse in Luke 21:36. Watch ye therefore and pray always that you may be accounted worthy to escape all these things that shall come to pass. So if you're to escape all things that shall come to pass, and this is the pre-trib verse of all pre-trib verses in the scripture, if you're to escape all things that are about to come to pass, then guess what? When you go back up to verse 9, and it says, wars and commotions, but be not terrified, for these things must what? First come to pass. If this is the first thing to come to pass, and verse 36 tells us that you're to escape all these things that shall come to pass, then you won't be here in the pre-trib for the first thing that's about to come to pass, which means the pre-trib is coming even before the verse 9. And the event of verse 9, I believe, is the light affliction coming on Haifa and Tel Aviv, the light affliction, the first attack that's going to happen right after the pre-trib. That's what this is. And so this is going to be the events taking place during the 7-day wedding, while the events of Psalms 18 are happening, while we see what then takes place to the time of the coming of the Son of Man. Because here's the coming of the Son of Man. The coming of the Son of Man, we now know this connection in September. We know this distress and the things that are coming upon the earth while this stuff is going on in Israel, in the north, and the Middle East is breaking out. And then what does he tell us? Then he goes on to say in verse 10 and 11, then he said unto them. So he's talking about the events that will then begin at nation against nation, which is at the end of the 50 days, when Syria comes, as we showed, as the other Tekufa at the end of the harvest, and Syria comes with theirs and destroys Jerusalem, and that's the nation against nation beginning, and the beginning of the 14 years of the Red Horse Rider. But then what does he say? In verse 12, you've got then, but before all these. So the before all these includes what? Before all these right here being spoken about. It can't be before the first come to pass. It has to be after it, because it's saying before all these. But this is the first thing. So here's your first thing. Here's your things that come after. And it's saying before these things that he said unto them. So we know that this is the beginning of the 40 days. This begin when they're being delivered up into persecution. And we know that this is all about this connection to the 40 days of the Son of Man, when he's coming at this, either, at the 8th day, early by mid September, or a little bit later around the 22nd. And we can get this from Luke chapter 17, because in Luke 17, where we see, but first, when he says, but first must he suffer many things, we know this but first is the one connected to Noah as his 40 days, which is his 40 days as his birth connection, which is his 40 days as Jonah. So we know that connection's there. But to the one last point on the Luke one is, in Matthew, he doesn't come till the end of the 6th to start the 7th. At Mark, he doesn't come till the end of the 6th to start the 7th. In Luke's, the coming of the Son of Man is his 40 days. That also comes after the pre-trib. However, it's before the end of the 50 days. So if Luke's represents that above portion, which it does, mainly focusing on the 40, but really, it really does encompass the whole 50 days. And Jesus is coming before the end of it. Whereas in Mark and in Matthew, the mid-trib is coming after his coming, and the post-trib of them gathering back is coming after his coming. Only in Luke's does the pre-trib happen before he actually comes. So you see, you're not seeing it all in chronological order. You have to be able to see where this relates to that and how that's coming before it and so forth. So in verse 9, it's verse 36 happens, verse 9 happens. You've got that representing what's taking place during the 7-day wedding. Then you go to 25 through 28, and it's the chaos coming of just like Psalms 18 and Revelation 12:1. And then he comes, as it said, then it's the workers that are going to be redeemed now at that point, right? They're going to have the redemption. They're now going to be in his presence. So they're going to have no more faith, because they'll be in the presence of their faith, right? So like 1 Peter 1. So they're going to be in the presence of their faith. And now it goes to verse 12. But before all of these, before the Red Horse Rider and the nation against nation, they're going to persecute you while you're with me, while we're doing this for 40 days. And that persecution begins. And then it takes it right to the end of that. And then the Son of Man's gone. You follow that into like Luke 24, to the end of Luke 24. You take it into Acts 1, into Acts 2, and it brings you to the end of your 50 days. And then nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom.
Okay, so could it be that the people? I know you said the disciples, but could it be that the people that go before all of those things, like you said, because there's something that I've been thinking about with the whole the free will where you choose to be a worker and come back down. I was talking to my wife about this, and she doesn't want to be a worker. But I said, if Jesus asked you, if you got to heaven and Jesus asked you, would you do it? Would you say no? And I was telling her I would have a hard time thinking anybody would say no. Actually, I think probably all of the people who got asked that would say no. And then I had another thought with it too. Maybe the people who are staying when the workers are working, because I don't think the bride are just from the people who are alive right now at this time. Yeah. I think the bride would be from like all the time since he died.
That's right.
So that I think the people who stay are actually the people who already died. And the people who, so hear me out with, it also has to do with the upper room portion. So the people who go up, you would have people sitting there. So at the escape, you wouldn't go sit at the highest point because you still have more people from the bride that still have to come in. And I'm wondering if these people are the people who see who he's saying like that are going to actually see the signs in Luke. And maybe it's not Mark's people that are seeing it, but it's the workers that he's talking to. So yeah, you have the escape where everybody goes up to the upper room. And then he asks, do you want to come back down and work? And then we come back down, and then he's talking to us about those signs. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a different way of saying what a lot of people have asked me over the years too. It is we're all going first, and then a group from them are going to come back, and that's how it's going to work.
Well, because it's weird that he comes down for. Why are we going up to the third heaven, like actually all of the way there, and he meets us in the clouds?
No, you see, the pre-trib does not happen where the Lord's coming down and saying, everybody come to me, and then we all go and we go up with them. We're vanishing. There's no coming to get us. Nobody's going to see anything happen, as far as we understand. Maybe there'll be colorful lights of something in the sky and the aurora going down everywhere. I don't know. But the Lord, they're not all coming down to take us, and then we go up, and then we're coming down. And no, it's the pre-trib is going to happen. They're going to vanish. They're gonzo. No chariots coming for them. Gone, vanishing, because they're going to the third heaven. The group that would remain isn't a group going to be part of that and then being brought back. So we get to experience having vanished, all of a sudden coming back and having these bodies again. I'd be like, no, maybe I'll stay there or give me a new body or something, right? So we're not going and then coming. A lot of people think it's the same thing. Christ is going to come. He's going to get everybody. He's going to go back, and then he's going to come back for 40 days. No, it's no coming. It's vanished. Everybody's gone, disappeared, except for a group that he has chosen to remain behind, that he would send his angels or through the Lord or the angels of the Lord or whatever it is that will inform them that they've been chosen to stay. They'll be ready for it. They'll be prepared for it. He's not going to go to somebody and say, hey, the Lord's thinking, maybe you'd like to stay. What do you think? I don't think that's going to happen. Everybody that the Lord's going to go to, I believe, is prepared, has been prepared in some aspect and ready to stay. And the Lord already knows in advance. So what's happening is everybody vanishes. That other group is already prepared, ready for when he returns from the wedding. When he returns from the wedding, that's him coming now. That's him coming in Luke 21, and it's his coming to begin his 40 days. So it's not everybody's been taken. Then they're there with the Lord at the wedding. They're in the lowest room, and then they come back with the Lord who had already come with them and taken them to bring them back. That's not what's happening. The scripture doesn't show any evidence of that at all. It's vanish, a group remains, the Lord comes, he knocks, they receive him when he knocks, and then it would appear they're going to be translated somewhere in Jerusalem or somewhere where they're going to have that banquet meal, and the understanding and everything will be open. But there isn't a coming and a going and then going again, and I don't see any evidence of that.
So So for the worker people, it's like you said, like it wouldn't be you going. So where if I look in Revelation, the place where I see the escape happen is Revelation 4. John, at the beginning in I think it's Revelation 1, he has a vision where he's waiting for the Lord, and the Lord comes and sends him a message of everything to do. But he doesn't say come up hither in there, but it says that he goes in the spirit.
Yeah.
The other time he says come up hither in 4. So that's like him getting raptured up, but he didn't get raptured up in the first one.
Yeah.
So I kind of see like the worker people getting that message because he's telling them what to go say to the churches.
That's right.
He's not told that in 4.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Again, I mean, that was more John the Baptist, but this is John the Revelator. Yeah. Yeah. And I see what you're saying in that, and maybe that's part of it, right? So I'm talking in the spirit, maybe those who are chosen to remain and that's, I've heard that side of it as well, that those who go all pre-trib, that even the workers would go pre-trib, but that their bodies would remain here. So I don't know, did they just sit there, immovable for 7 days while things are happening on the earth? That would mean they get to go to the wedding and everything else. But Luke chapter 12 said, wait to be ready when I come. What would be the point of having to wait for when he comes to knock? Right? We even see that in Revelation chapter 3. Why would he tell us to wait to when he returns and knocks, and that he's going to have this meal with us if we were already there in the spirit and we enjoyed all these things with him at the wedding, only to come back in our spirit? We'd be like, hey, yeah, okay, the Lord's coming,
I have a thought regarding Paul in the above 14 years. When he goes, whether in the body or out of the body, I cannot tell. It's like maybe they do both.
And yeah, there's some mystery in that wording, right? Because there's two different types of wording. The pre-trib one has a wording, and the mid-trib one has a slightly different wording in it too. Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know if maybe there's in the body, out of the body, what is that a reference to? Maybe, and I'm not saying this is, but maybe the reference is because some do go and some do stay. So in the body, out of the body, I'm not sure which one it was. Maybe there's a connection like that. And it would apply to
it's still in time because he said 14 years ago, and whether he's in the body or out of the body, it's still 14 years ago. So he's still in time. He's not. He hasn't left. He hasn't gone off planet.
Yeah, exactly. And again, remember, it's a typology too, right? So in his, we know he had to be here because he's relating the story for the events he was doing in the is. But in the is to come, yeah, you got to kind of read between the lines of that. And that's where, we see a similar wording in the mid-trib one to paradise. And what do we know about that? Well, in the pre-trib one, we know a group goes and a group remains. In the mid-trib ones, what's happened? There's a group remaining, the 144, and then you have the great multitude. So in the body, out of the body, I'm not sure. I don't know which one. It applies to both of them. But
yeah. What do you make of that? The Rachel verse too, by the way, where she brings the sheep in.
The Rachel verse.
Yeah, I put a Rachel verse there on the channel where she brings the sheep in. Rachel comes back with the sheep. Because they were with her.
Oh, I can't recall it off the top of my head.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah. Sorry, bro. I'm pretty good, but I don't have every piece of detail yet.
You're right. Yeah.
The workers are they with are they with him the whole 40 days and then they go? What happens with the workers?
Yeah, that's a detail I would say still to come. My assumption.
Says he knocks on the door.
Yeah, he knocks on the door. And so obviously the very first thing that will happen is when he knocks and they open, then I believe we'll be taken somewhere, translated like Philip was, for example, and we will have a meal somewhere with him, this prepared banquet, wherever that might be, however that might be, that all the workers will have that banquet meal with him. That's why we've got it there in Luke. But from there, and just like Luke 24, and from there, what does he end up doing? Well, he's going to open up their understanding. that they might understand the scripture. So we know that only happens there in Luke 24's group as well. So he's going to finish that picture, give us the understanding needed to take us through the end of seals. But what does it mean during the 40 days? After we have that meal with them, then what? Do we continue to follow him during the 40 days, or does he send us out? He may, because he has given us the understanding at the meal, that he may send everybody out by 2 at that point, which would explain why Luke 21 says some of you will be taken, sent into prison. Is it because
because I don't think that's
be like
possible
24
here in America.
24,000 people are going to be following him everywhere he goes? I don't think so. I believe it's 12,000. Some believe it's 144,000. So you're not going to have 144,000 or 24,000 people following him. So chances are that's why we see in Luke 21, or though maybe that is why everybody's going to start getting arrested, right? But it might
don't
more
invite
so
your mates,
be,
Jesus. There's just too many.
That's right. But it might very well be too that it makes more sense that he would send us out, and we see that, don't we? We see that in Luke chapter 9. So when we know the transfiguration of Luke chapter 9 is a picture of him coming for 40 days, when you go down and you follow the rest of the story, he then says, follow me, give up, and come and follow me. And what does he do? You go to verse 10 and, you've got, again, we know it's another typology in there as well, but what do we see? He sends them out by 2. So it may be at some point after the meal when he comes to begin his 40 days and he opens their understanding. Once you have the understanding, you've been in the presence of your Lord and Savior, the creator of all of it, and you no longer have faith. You can endure, you can do anything, right? So could it be that, yes, they'll follow him, but also be sent out? So they might be sent out and then come back to him and be sent out and come back. You know what I mean? There might be some of that, because at the end of 40 days, it would appear they see him leave. So when he's when he's gone at the end of 40 days, they see him. And so when they see him, then they know they have to be in one particular place. So wherever this place might be in Jerusalem, then they receive that anointing of the Holy Ghost, or what we call Acts 2.0. So I would think they probably will be sent out, but then they'll probably be gathered back at certain times, and at the end of it, gathered together to be in that upper room, right? Like in Luke 23, I think it is. Well, they'll be gathered together in the upper room, waiting for that anointing as well. So,
you know what? If this was church, this would be my favorite church. I enjoy this. Can we do this like? I'll stay up late for this all the time. I don't care. I love it.
Much easier when church you can ask questions.
Yeah, it's good. Enjoy it.
I think there's 2 stories that the workers can look to, the worker group could look to for a possible understanding of what might happen. The first one is in the Exodus story, when after the Mount Sinai event, we know that Moses went up into the mountain, but before his 40 days, there was a group of 74 elders that went up, and they had a meal with the Lord in the mountain. Now, if you read between the lines, that mountain wasn't just a normal mountain. You've got to go look at, look at the description of the floor before the throne. It appears that they actually went to some place, they were translated to some place that I believe was Mount Zion.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, I like to refer to it as like maybe a mobile throne room, if you want to call it, not the third heaven, but it's like a throne room, but it moves.
Yeah, or
it was.
like,
so if you go and read
like the translated, right? Being translated, maybe we get translated to paradise to have the meal.
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I think is going to happen for that worker group, and probably for that meal and that time when he opens up the scriptures to that group.
Yeah.
So it's not going to third heaven. It's going to and that's what I think the upper room is. That's what I think the typology of the upper room is referring to, that thing up in the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the link. We understand our relationship to the mountaineers and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I have the belief that Revelation 14 happens right at the beginning, together with at the beginning of the tribulation, not later on in the event. And there you've got a group that is standing before a throne. And when you read the description, it seems to me that is also Mount Zion type situation.
That's right.
So there you've got a group of people standing before the throne, and they get to sing a new song. So that's what I believe is the worker group is getting. They'll be getting that information that they need to be able to go do the work that they're about to be sent out to do. So it's not necessarily a leaving and returning, but I think it's more going to be
like a translation and
it's
being brought back to where you're going to go throughout the earth. Yeah.
But it'll be after the wedding.
You said, could you say what you said again about Revelation 14? I'm sorry.
And I'll clarify this again. This is why I just said what I said before Ivan said that. I believe that the worker group are two sets of 12,000 through like the tribe of Dan under the eagle and through Ephraim. So I believe the two tribes are going to be 12,000 and 12,000 each as the workers for the Luke group. Ivan is of the belief that there are two sets of 144,000, meaning the worker groups from Luke are 144,000, and then Revelation 7 is another 144,000, and they're the ones that are going to go out during trumpets. But he believes that the Revelation 14 144,000 are the pre-trib Luke workers of the 144. So he believes there's two 144. I believe there's 12,000 and 144. He might be right, and it might be 144,000. I just more believe that it's two sets through the Ephraim, Dan, 12 and 12 for 24,000. And he's of the belief that there's two. So we're saying the same thing in the same time frames, but he is looking at that as an explanation for the pre-trib worker group. So I want to make sure that that's clear, so there's no confusion for others.
Yeah. So the 144,000 in my understanding would be that 24,000 that Alan's referring to, that Dan group, the Ephraim group.
But not the ones from
12,000,
Revelation 7, the
12,000.
ones from 14.
Revelation 14, yeah. So that the same two groups, two groups of 12,000 for Dan and Ephraim. But there's evidence of 120,000 Gentiles. When we see that in the story of Nineveh, where 120,000 were saved, we see that story in the talents, the 120,000 talents that the queen gave to Solomon, King Solomon. So we see these connections of 120,000, and I think there's a third place. I just can't recall it now, and they always seem to be linked to Gentiles. This number of 120,000 seems to be linked to Gentile group, and that's where I believe that
the two in the upper room.
The remainder of the 144,000 will be the 24,000 plus the 120,000 Gentiles.
Okay,
that's where I'm kind of getting from. I think I've expanded on that a few times in some. I think I've done one of my written studies. Expand on that in more detail.
Perfect. So see, very possible. In fact, what he's saying is it is a combination of what I show and the rest of it with what he shows.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, I think we've been at it for I think we're 3.5 hours or so. That's pretty good. That's a little over a typical teaching, right?
Yeah, it's almost 4 hours.
That's right. Perfect.
You're just warming up, Alan.
Oh no, man. I'm glad you guys helped with this one. Perfect. Well, with that, guys, I think we're good unless somebody had more questions. Anything people wanted to share?
Hang on, I'll just have a look in the chat section and see if someone's got a question there. Hang on.
Okay. I'll unmute Shadow Gamer, which is let's see. All right. Oh, there we go.
Good night,
there
everyone.
He is. I wasn't sure if you had a question or not. It looked like you didn't know your mic was muted or something, so I thought I'd unmute you to see.
Well, I had a praise report.
Oh, great.
I've been printing out the spreadsheet and giving it to anybody that says, yeah, I'll take one. And my pastor, he took one. And this was about 6 months ago, or right when it came out. And 2 weeks ago, his wife came up to me. I got to tell you this. He says, every week we have our families, both our families come over, our parents come over. He says, we spread that out on the table and we go through the scripture verses, and they are thrilled to death with that. They are so excited to have that. And but still, I'm starting to see parts of what he's learning on that creep into his sermons, and so he it's yeah. I and my daughter Christina will look at each other, we're pointing at each other. Yeah, you got it, you got it. So that's exciting. And
That's
then
very exciting.
yeah, so then my head pastor, who's over like 5 churches, and also my pastor at my church, he has one, and he came up to me about 3 weeks ago, and he goes, Pete, we got to start talking about this chart, and we got to start doing prophecy. And I said, great. And then he goes on to talk about the 80 years, and I go, oh, he doesn't get it yet. And so, but he's a really, really busy man, so I'm not trying to pressure him to get down and talk prophecy.
Yeah. You can get
anyway,
me on a big screen. Get me on a big screen at that church, and we'll have a prophecy night.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyway, Steven says hi, and
yes, hello.
Really
and by the way,
to...
this is Pete, brothers and sisters. This is Pete, and I've had some Zoom Bible studies with him and his family, and some church brothers and sisters. And one was the pastor, or one was the
one is the pastor.
Yeah, one is the pastor, right? That we had that one night too. Yeah, and Christina,
Steven.
his daughter, and his wife were there, and yeah, he's got the big charts printed out. You got like on this. Obviously, you guys know this is my green screen, right? But on the back of my booth here, so it's about 5.5 feet wide, and I've got the 2x5 chart laid out, and he's got a big one about 2 feet, but you've got all of the chapters and verse under it, all of it printed out too. He's printed out a whole bunch and gives them out to people, and so it's exciting to hear the pastors that you share with are starting to be like, whoa, this is wild, and they're reading the chapters to years and the chapters to verses, and they're saying, whoa, look at this. Yeah, that does connect. That is saying that. Oh, that's so awesome. Yeah. And then you can see Tammy next to him here, who's our sister who spent so much time putting that together. Oh, it's so awesome. See, I told you, it's not me alone. Never has been.
Yeah. And so I want to say thank you to the group or anybody that participated in creating that chart, because it has made talking to people a lot easier. And so, because I put that on the wall and then scoot all the furniture off to one side of the room, and we stand around on the wall and we talk about it. They ask questions, and I explain it to them on the chart. And we had a couple that stayed until 11 o'clock at night because they were just asking question after question after question, and they're so excited. So, but they still don't quite understand everything.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
It takes a while.
Yeah,
it takes a while.
Yeah, but you can see it in their eyes, because something here makes sense, and they catch it, and something here, and there might be, like you said, they were there till 11, so they must have been there for 5 hours that night or more, right? Yeah. So it's a lot to take in, and the circuits have to rearrange themselves, and it's a lot. But when you see that light and the questions that they start asking, and they start getting excited about it, the synapses are starting to make those connections. So piece by piece, yeah,
and it's exciting. And go ahead.
Hey, Tammy.
Yeah, I was wanting to let everyone know that I am working on the chart again.
What?
And I would like help. I'm going through the transcript and finding stuff that's not on the chart. And but if anybody wants to let me know what to put on it and where, I'd be glad to.
Like the verses?
Yeah,
so you're
the verses.
Going, the verses. Okay.
Yeah, I'm adding to the bottom part of the chart that, a lot of stuff's still missing. That's just that we haven't, we've already covered.
Yeah.
And it's just not on there. So like
I
Zephaniah.
don't know if it was me or not, but I got some printed off and some of the bottom was missing. But yeah, Tammy, you rock. You really knocked it out of the park with that chart.
Oh,
it's awesome.
People love that chart when they see it, and it's the thing when it comes to the chapters and the verses and stuff. We did make that note too, right? That like we did talk about it, that we don't have everything in there, and one of the reasons we don't is, I mean,
there's so much.
It's so much. It would literally, I could do it. I don't know how many months it would take me, because it would be me going through all of the Bible from Genesis to Revelation in all of the 7 years that I've understood. And I don't know if you guys remember this, but a few years ago, I was starting to do something like that with teachings. And I went from Genesis, I think, to Exodus. And I spoke about everything within it that we had revealed and had been taught and been shared in it. And it was like a 3-hour teaching, and it was part one of just those chapters. And, then it was going to go to the next few chapters and the next few chapters. I mean, to go through and to do all that and then to put every chapter of every verse of every breakdown within that chart, my mind just goes, I can't do it. So it's just too much. It's like it's sensory overload. Just even thinking about it, I just shut down. I can't do it. But for anybody that knows specifics, or if something just comes to my memory and looking, send messages to Tammy. And she's nothing has to be added to the chart, but she wants to add into all of the verses and the chapters that we know that there's stuff there, and trigger it in so that more people, as like Peter was sharing, Peter, does it matter?
It doesn't matter.
Okay. So, and with Pete,
Don't call
as
me
he was
late for
sharing,
dinner.
so, as he's sharing, people go into that now. And if it's posted and people see it and they ask questions, there's more reference points. The more we can put in those references, even better. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, like Zephaniah, that's an easy one, 3 chapters, and we've already, that one needs to be put on there, and whatever else, I'd be glad to update it.
Perfect. Perfect.
Well, I can't thank you enough.
Before you go.
Yeah, go ahead, Isaiah.
Okay, so I discovered something, this had to be about 5 years ago when I was down in Texas. I have looked everywhere on the internet and there's no information about this at all. I think it might be like ancient and gone, but it might have something to do with you guys figuring out the sun and the moon. And since you're about to put this on YouTube, I want to say something so more people can see, because maybe they might be able to figure it out. If at nighttime, if you go look at the stars, first I want to preface this by saying I believe that the earth is flat, so this is more significant to me, but it would still apply to everybody, period. But if you go look at the stars, not all of them twinkle, like blink. The ones that blink, they're all like of the same constellation, and they blink differently at different times. So I don't know what it means, but to me, that's clearly something that's trying to be said. I just don't know how to figure it out, and I haven't found any information about it anywhere. But it's, now that I've said it and you've seen it, and when you see it, it will be blatantly obvious to you that something is trying to be said. I don't know how to figure it out. I don't know enough about that stuff, but yeah, for any of you smart guys in there, for any of you guys, you smart guys that know all the stuff, that's definitely something I think you should look into, because it might be pertinent.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. I couldn't tell you what it is either, but it would kind of line up even when you go back to what we were talking about, Psalms 90 and 10, right? They've given their voice, right, in the heavens. So the only thing is how to read that. You got me there, but it's out there now, so maybe some people will look into it and they could post it in the forum. Yeah, appreciate it.
Also, Alan, I'd like to, if you could you ask my friend Ray, who is watching at the moment? He's the one who convinced me to come and talk to you, or come and follow your channel in the first place, because we used to be like, I won't say the swear word, the other channel, but we used to when we were starting off, we followed you. He went from a guy who said, he used to say he didn't understand how to work a phone, and he'd wait out the front for a 7-year-old to show him how to use it, to a fellow who's now on YouTube sharing your videos, right? He's cutting and pasting your videos and sharing them on not YouTube, on what's that other one? TikTok.
Oh,
He's gone on and he shares them on TikTok, and he's always been like, I don't know this stuff, and now he's doing stuff and he's getting really good, and like years and years. Can you give him some encouragement? Tell him to join our forum.
And sorry, was it Ray?
Ray, yes, Ray.
Ray.
He's like sunshine. He helps me all the time. When I got questions, I ask him because your 3-hour answers. His is shorter. He's really good. I promise you, he's really good, and he should be with us.
No, I appreciate the people like Ray, man. I know that there's people out there like that, and I would love if every one of them came to the forum and just even said hello, you know, because I know there's people that have been around for years and years that I have never met. I have no clue who they are. I've never heard of them, don't know their names, but they've been watching and studying and searching and sharing for years and years. You know, I remember an elderly lady couple, a group that there's like 5 or 6 of them, and they've been doing Bible studies on the teachings for years. And, you know, but I don't know who the rest of them are. I just got one email, a message, and I don't know who they are or where they are. But I know there's people doing this everywhere. So the people like
come
Ray,
and help us. Come and help
you know,
us. We just want help. We want study together and learn together. That's what
that's
we do.
right.
Alan's not our leader. He's just with us. We just happen to agree with him.
You know, and it's like somebody like Tammy as well, right? Just went out there and took the initiative and loves her charts and graphs, and Ivan's got some of them as well.
Awesome.
So somebody like Ray who knows how to piece these things, even though they say they don't know, you know, they know a little bit. There's those who know what they know, and the great things they do with sharing it. Nah, I love it, man. Everybody come and join us in the forum. There's plenty of room. Everybody can share and say their how they found us or whatever they want to share, or, you know, definitely don't be shy. You don't even have to show your face in there. You know, I prefer everybody knowing who everybody is, but it's okay. There's a lot of mystery names that I don't know as well. And as long as everybody's there and they're sharing and, you know, like-minded brothers and sisters, come and join us. And for those, whether even if they don't, I appreciate you. I thank you. I thank you for sharing it. I can't even imagine how many people, even though there's like 10,300 subs, I can't even imagine probably the well over several 100,000 that we have reached over the years, from Uganda to the 4 corners of the earth, in a TikTok share, in Twitter, or people sharing with this or sharing the charts. It has an effect, man, and every single one of you is playing a part in one way or another, and I'm grateful for it. I can't wait to meet you guys face to face in his presence, either prayerfully in the third heaven with them in the lowest room, or girded about, man, ready to have that banquet meal with him when he returns. That's where I think we'll see the majority of us. And the rest will meet you prayerfully when we get there, when it's over. And just all celebrate and rejoice forever in his presence. And I can't wait.
Amen, amen, amen.
It's true. We're there. And we will see you soon. So with that, brothers and sisters, we are like 4 hours into this one. I think it's been awesome. It was a great share. We've got some very specific, understandable times that we're watching for. Can't wait. All right. With that, I love you guys. God bless you all. Thanks for sharing.
Bye, 14ers.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks.
See you guys.
Thanks, Alan.
Love you guys.
Yeah, awesome.
Good to
Man.
see you,
Thank
Keith.
you. Good night, everybody.
God bless you guys. Bye for now.